tomando muito dano do lava. Bola de fogo da ponta do recado.
Get the rest of the defense off. Oh my word!
Perfeita.
4 in a row for Team Queso.
It's day 2 of our opening weekend. The day 1 kickoff had a little bit of everything. Huge performances, sweeps, crushing defeats, BMs, a little bit of controversy. It was a fun, amazing, exciting kickoff for our fall split. Andrew and I were both, of course, we're both completely excited about everything that we saw. And now day 2 looks to be even bigger, even better, with 4 teams making their debut for this fall split. Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me as always, my friend Andrew Guy. As I said, yesterday had some of everything, and today we get something more. 4 teams making their fall debut, 4 teams with high expectations, including the team that nearly went fully undefeated until that semi-final, Tribe Gaming. Andrew, I cannot wait to see some of these heavy hitters.
It is my favorite time of year, Rich. We got football, we got playoff basketball, but most importantly, we start our weekends with CRL, baby. And yesterday was crazy. We're going to talk all about it. I think you definitely were, a little controversy, maybe a bit of controversy, but we'll talk about it in just a second after we get through making sure that you guys are watching us right here on YouTube. Maybe you're on Twitch. I'm in both chats. I'm trying to say hi here and there, as long as you're being nice. Make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribed, and most importantly, make sure you turn on notifications on both platforms. It's very important. That way you guys know exactly when we go live so you do not miss a match. With how many with how many sweeps we had yesterday, you could really miss them. So follow us on Twitter as well, at Esports Royale EN. I looked at all the polls up there. I saw who you guys think is going to win today. And speaking of who you think is going to win today, who's going to win that 250,000 gold? Who's going to get the 100 gems? I got 9 crowns yesterday, and that was with one of my guys putting up a big fat goose egg. I won't say who you are because, you know, I'll give you a little bit of love. It was day 1. Rich, did you do pretty well yesterday? I think I edged you out just by a bit.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you know that you edged me out by a lot. I got 3 of my players played yesterday. I got 1 crown. But of course, some of them play again today. So, who knows? Maybe we can get right back into it and get me back on track. But yeah, if you picked RF yesterday, you had a great one, of course, with RF coming out with a nasty 5-1 overall between 2v2 and a brutal King of the Hill sweep with a little there at the end. Shout out Space Station for some excellent content on the back end. Andrew, it's already been fire from our opening, and I'm excited that we had a full round robin this time with the season format for this longer fall split. Every team plays every other team. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and you know, when we move things back to where we're going 2v2, King of the Hill, and then 1v1, and honestly, yesterday we already saw how well that old new format is working out. We're going back to what we did in 2017 because we want to see more players mixed in, and that's what we saw yesterday. We saw entire squads come out in 2 sets, which was really, really nice to see. The one thing that we're waiting, though, to see is that 1v1 set. We saw a lot of sweeps yesterday. Maybe today's the day we get to that 3rd and final set. And speaking of 3rd and final set, that's not the way it's going to be in playoffs. When we get to playoffs, we're going back to BO5, just like we did in the spring. We're still going to be kicking things off with that 2v2. Then we're going to go into 2 1v1 sets, and then a 3rd 1v1 set if necessary, followed by, of course, our King of the Hill set, also if necessary.
Yeah, those playoffs proved to be interesting with that best of 5, of course, with that reverse sweep mentioned earlier by Space Station Gaming in the semis. Yesterday, Andrew, some crazy results. Of course, Cream Royale Bettis taking the win, Space Station with the win, and Team Queso coming out firing. And of course, a little bit of controversy with some Elixir watching on a second screen. And, you know, we talked about this a little bit, and because of the online nature of this season, typically when they're live in studio, they can't do that, obviously. But it's an unenforceable rule with some players on player cams, some players can't be on player cams. So because of the online season, there's no rule against it, and it's up to the players to decide if they're going to do that or not. But still generated some controversy in our opening match yesterday.
We've watched everything from sports to talk shows to literally every piece of digestible entertainment in the world has had to make a slight adjustment. CRL is no different because we're online. We have to kind of go and roll with the punches. And you know what? when it comes to live shows, that will not be available. So as you can see, the 3 matches that are coming up today, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of that going on. But once again, no one's really breaking the rules. So there's not really a lot to say about it other than good luck today. And hopefully your team comes out with the W, no matter how you decide to approach the match.
So we are making some picks throughout the season. We'll get into deeper picks as we go later and later, and we'll have some stuff for you, keeping track of all the casters. But Andrew, today we open up with Tribe versus Dig, and then, of course, after that, we have our former Western champions, SK Gaming. And then, of course, we have 2 teams both returning, playing each other in the final match of the day in Misfits versus Pain Gaming. I'll be on the spot first. I'll make my picks because we're going to start doing this now. I'm picking Tribe today. I'm picking SK over Chivas. And I'm going to go on a limb and say the rookies of Pain Gaming take out the half-rookie squad of Misfits.
You mean SK over Dig. And I agree. I'm with you totally. I think it's SK. I think it's Tribe. And I'm actually going with Misfits as well. What's really interesting about this is, Dignitas and SK basically had the same record last season going into playoffs. It was just that Dig got edged out because they were in Group A by Team Liquid. So it'll be really interesting to see 2 squads that were basically evenly matched going into playoffs, how they'll face off today. And then our second match, Tribe going up against Chivas. We got a 4-0 squad and an 0-4 squad on the regular season. But then Tribe kind of had that playoff curse of going into it perfectly. So we'll see how both squads bounce back today. It's really important for Chivas Esports to pick up a game win. They just need to do it. They need to pick up a match win. It has to happen. And doing it over Tribe, I think, is really, really important. I don't know why I'm in the exact same boat with you with Misfits Pain, but I am. And maybe it's just because of what we saw yesterday, or maybe it's because of the veterans on their roster.
Oh, so I took Pain.
Oh, you took Pain.
I'm saying
I took Misfits.
The all-rookie squad of Pain. That's who I'm calling. I think they got their jitters out. They're again. I think they're like a high ceiling, low floor team. And I think that they will go to the high ceiling today with the win over Misfits. And we'll get into that all-important 2v2 stuff later. But right now, it's going to be Dignitas against SK Gaming. And talking about 2v2, SK has had historically one of the greatest 2v2 duos in the league between OP Sam and Morton.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that 2v2 duo is it just wasn't working last season. So we saw a bit of a change-up where Javi KotH came in. But we'll get to that in 1 second. Let's talk about Dig. Bale, Flash, KotH, and Lindsay coming out for Dig. They are going to be our home team today, and we'll see what their 2v2 duo is going to be. It's most likely going to be what they rocked last season. And then as we get over to Red, we can kind of further elaborate on what you were talking about, Rich. Morton and Sam has been the 2v2 duo for SK for so long, but in the spring it just wasn't working. They actually moved Javi in with Sam, and they got a 100% win rate, and then Morton kind of took over being the 1v1 star with Sergio Ramos kind of playing, wherever they needed him, playing Phil, if you will. How do you feel about that, and do you think they're going to come out with the same 100% duo that we saw in the spring, or are they going to go back to what used to work?
I think you go back to Sam and Morton most likely. I mean, there's something to be said for preserving Morton for 1v1, but with King of the Hill being the second set, I think there's less pressure on that. So I think that you still feel pretty good about your King of the Hill if you're SK Gaming, no matter what 3 you put out there. And I think you go back to Sam and Morton, and here we go. But here's the big shocker, is a big turn of events here, taking KotH and Flash out of 2v2 and putting what's supposed to be their 2 head-to-head players into the 2v2 set in Bale and Lindsay.
Yeah, this is really surprising. And what this kind of speaks to me is that they're much more confident in what those other 2 guys can do in head-to-head play. I don't know if it means that this is their best 2v2 duo, but maybe these guys aren't just hanging where they need to be when it comes to that head-to-head. So we'll see what Bale and Lindsay want to do today. They're banning Fisherman, going up against that old tried and true duo of OP Sam and Morton. Banning NATO is SK, banning Fisherman is Dignitas. Let's go into match 1, day 2.
Very interesting to see Bale and Lindsay here, but of course, the 2 of them combined went 0 for 4 in 1v1 sets last season. So, I guess if it's not working, gotta change things up. And they also struggled in 2v2 overall as a squad as well, with KotH and Flash splitting their sets, so might as well try something out. New season, new look.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's not working, you got to try things, got to try to switch things up. It worked for SK last season. They were able to make it to playoffs. They were able to get a win in there, but not able to close things out and obviously get to the top. So here we go. Bale, Lindsay at the bottom. They're going to go Giant Skeleton in front of that Lumberjack, and Sam and Morton at the top. Not really surprising seeing some bait aspects.
And you can see that Sam and Morton are sitting side by side in the SK Gaming house. So you see the same background between the 2 of them. So close together, even though they don't typically talk that much.
I was just going to say, that good thing they're sitting right next to each other because no words are being spoken. Oh, there we go. A couple little words out of Sam. But as you can see, Lindsay looking like he may be the shot caller, if you will, on Dignitas.
You know, one thing I want to note here is this: we're on day 2, and we're already seeing a lot more Inferno Tower than we saw in 2v2 last season, or even the season before that. So, very interesting little shift in the 2v2 meta here on the western side of CRL.
Yeah, and I'm also really curious to see about how the bans start to shift as we move farther into the season. Yesterday, obviously, there's 6 bans between 3 matches. There was 5 different cards banned, Musketeer being the only repeat, and I'm wondering what that speaks as to the meta of 2v2 and how much that's going to change.
So here we go. First 2 minutes almost completed, entering double elixir time, and so far no one has made any significant damage here. 23-30 to 23-57 as we go into our final minute of regulation, and there goes the barrel to the right hand.
So looking at what the responses are here from SK to that Royal Giant, we see that they have the log to knockback. We see we got the Inferno Tower obviously to lock it in place, but the real problem is going to come from these double pushes. How do you deal with the Giant Skeleton on the front end and the Inferno on the back end? And, well, it looks like SK is going to show us right now.
Yeah, very, very nicely defended. Mega Knight high, and even with the Earthquake on the Inferno Tower, not able to get rid of it fast enough. You saw the idea there with the Giant Skeleton trying to tank long enough for the RG to break through. Couldn't happen. Here we go, final 30 seconds, and again, more pressure in both lanes now from the Germans.
Yeah, Germans really, really keeping up the pressure. Bale and Lindsay made a couple really small micro interactions that were, I guess you could call them very, very slight misplays, but it really didn't seem to hurt them much. Maybe just a couple elixir wasted.
And now Mini P.E.K.K.A high to help out with taking that Royal Giant down, although the Heal Spirit might get this one. No, beautifully defended, slowed down, knocked back. 1922 to 2101 as we go into sudden death.
Yeah, right now Bale and Lindsay just playing the game of just sticking to it, sticking to what's working, playing smart with their spells. They've got the things that they need. They've got the log, they've got the cage, they've got the snowball, they've got all the stuff they need, and they're getting just a little bit of chip spell damage in when and where they can, and that's why they're in the front.
So far, it's the Earthquake that really is playing MVP right now. It's almost like the Giant Skeleton and Royal Giant are more to create an elixir commitment than anything else. And you see, again, 17-18, and this is pretty much all just Earthquake damage.
And you see right there how much elixir is coming down. Skeleton Dragons, Mega Knight, Musketeer, Inferno Tower. Every single time they're spending so much to, honestly, do nothing other than allow Earthquake damage to come in. So that's a really strong point you make.
Good job putting the barrel behind that skeleton barrel, so Goblin does get one stab. 2081, now another one. You don't have a log, don't have your snowball. What do you do here? Muskie comes down. Significant damage here on the right-hand side.
And there they go with the spell damage. This is a big, big problem here for Bale and Lindsay because Morton and Sam are doing a really, really good job of making them play their game as opposed to Bale and Lindsay having control like they did before.
So you see this, though, going to the right-hand side with the Royal Giant. Earthquake still gets that left-hand tower, even though they're having to push into that side. But a huge connection on the right. The Germans starting to pour it on with 40 seconds left.
You saw that fireball, that naked fireball left side from Bale and Lindsay going right on top of a skeleton barrel. Doesn't hit the Dark Goblin, just the barrel. Skeletons still come down. And when you're spending 4 for 3 on something like that this late in the game, you're making mistakes. And Sam and Morton capitalized.
All over it right now. Log now out of cycle. Will get the skeleton barrel high, but second set of barrels, and the skeleton barrel will also escape here. It gets drop damage on top of that. 42 HP. A spell will come in. GG, well played. Great triple elixir correction by OP Sam and Morton to take their first game of the fall.
And you see the frustration on Lindsay's face with Bale. You know, they felt like they were probably in control for about half that game, and then all of a sudden it just came spiraling downward. Morton and Sam with a little fist bump there at the end, knowing they just did what they do best. And what they do best is playing 2v2 with high cycle decks. And if you watch, once again, their communication, it's astonishing how much they are on the exact same page with how little is spoken to one another.
Well, you got to understand the frustration from Bale and Lindsay, feeling like they were in control for a long time, playing a good game, make a mistake. And I think of all the teams for whom the 2v2 is important, it might be even more important for Dig overall. You know, historically, the team that wins 2v2 wins between 75 and 85% of the matches. And that's a huge, huge advantage. But then you talk about how the Dignitas does not have a head-to-head superstar So now that makes that 2v2 set even more important to give that cushion against a stacked team like SK.
Yeah, you know, and it's really interesting, again, reading with the chat and obviously what you and I spoke about earlier, it's just what are Bale and Lindsay doing in the 2v2? Is this going to be a horrible decision when you look back on it, you know, in just a moment? But, you know, this kind of, the highlight you're seeing there is it's really just kind of a culmination of what happened over that last couple minutes of just slowly making small mistakes, slowly putting yourselves out of cycle with the spells that you need and spending a little bit more elixir on things that cost, you know, making -1 trades consistently, even in triple elixir, it's still going to add up, especially when you're playing against a deck that moves as quickly as that one does and when it's Sam and Morten, you know, wielding it.
Well, there was one sequence where where Bale and Lindsay played the cage high for a skeleton barrel, played a log on a goblin barrel, played a snowball on another skeleton barrel, and then there was one more barrel that came through and it was a musketeer to respond. And you could see that was when the damage got pretty even. And once they got deeper and deeper, that's when they got spread further and further thin and couldn't keep up.
I mean, I think the really big problem for Bale and Lindsay was that they didn't know how to kind of start pushes from the back so that as these barrels and stuff would come in, they'd be able to deal with it as their units were crossing their Princess Tower and then get to a point where they could actually cross the river with a good counter push. And that's just, again, a testament to how great Sam and Morten controlled that game.
So here we go, game number 1 in the books. Sam and Morten looking to be in fine form, cool, calm, collected, experienced together. Let's jump into game number 2 and see if they can get this a clean 2-0 sweep to open up, or if we'll see a game number 3.
So just kind of hanging out here. You see that this barrel is going to meet the goblin cage.
And it looks like it's going to be Sam and Morten going the same direction one more time, and you understand why. Even if Bale and Lindsay go with something that has more counters, this deck is so hard to contend with in the first place. No Tornado to get an easy King Tower activation, and it just makes things very difficult when you have two players who can play this deck so well and play it so well together to keep up when you're a less experienced 2v2.
Yeah, and you know, you and I touched on that a little bit yesterday, just talking about the types of decks that'll be used in 2v2 by these more experienced duos that allow their opponents to make their own mistakes, kind of open the door for you, if you will, and that's exactly what happened last game with what we're talking about, you know. Even if Bale and Lindsay didn't actually make a mistake by defending with the spells, it was still a moment where Sam and Morten go, okay, there's no way that they can defend a 4th barrel coming in right now.
One thing I do like seeing from Bale and Lindsay in this next game, though, and you're seeing it used here, is the Heal Spirit does give them some more options, double Heal Spirits, to deal with skeleton barrels once they pop. So that will free up some small spells to focus on the goblin barrels more and give them a 1 elixir way to at least stop most of the damage from a skeleton barrel.
Yeah, and then, you know, one of the things that's also frustrating about this deck composition that Morten and Sam are running is just that there's such an ability. Wow, that was real close. There's such an ability to get a ton of single target DPS on anything that is hit by that Heal Spirit, right? I mean, you look at the Mini P.E.K.K.A., the Dark Goblin, the Musketeer, the Bats, those alone can just kind of drain anything down, even if it's been healed.
Here we go, final minute of regulation, double elixir time, and at the moment, SK Gaming with a slight lead in the right-hand lane. Earthquake making that a tiny bit closer.
Yeah, and barrel left, a little tricky. Barrel right on the tower, both connect.
Yeah, interesting that they're up against Log as opposed to Barbarian Barrel, but still trying to maybe hope that some mistakes come in, and so far working out really well for Sam.
I mean, they're just poking and prodding, getting what they can, where they can, and that's really the name of bait, right? If you can take one Goblin Barrel stab just from one Goblin, it's a win, and they've been getting little things like that. Dark Goblin in, Goblin Barrel stab, Skeleton Barrel breaking on tower, things like that, they really add up over time.
Wow,
yeah.
Full-on double Goblins to the right-hand side, knowing Log wasn't going to be available. Don't get a ton from it, and here we go. Hog Rider into the left, and that's going to get one shot. No, Mega Knight comes in at the last second.
Second Mega Knight in, Mini P.E.K.K.A. behind, Skeleton Dragons to support that push on the left, and then on the right side, you got a Dark Goblin going to town on the tower.
Skeleton Dragons staying alive for a nice time. Not going to protect them at the moment, though, but that will take care of the giant skeleton. Here we are, sudden death overtime, and now these hog pushes starting to come in, and This might be enough for that Hog to get away. No, the Rage doesn't get on, so Inferno Tower burns it down.
Yeah, I mean, this is a moment where you almost start to feel bad for Bale and Lindsay because they're doing everything and anything they can. They're trying to find new ways to defend. They're trying to find moments to get aggressive. Again, like right here, but it's just not paying off. Sam and Morten have every response that they need. 2 Mega Knights, a Log, an Inferno Tower. How frustrating could this possibly be?
Pretty significant connection there, though. The Heal Spirit coming at the right time, 1538. So first big-time hit from Dignitas. Got to contend with the Skeleton Barrel on the right. Should be a Heal Spirit once it pops. No, Snowball comes on in. Here they go, setting up triple Elixir. Behind, but not out yet.
Yeah, Bale and Lindsay doing a great job utilizing the Death Bomb from this Giant Skeleton to just clear a little bit of room for their Hog Rider and also not getting too aggressive with their Hog.
Ooh, the freeze comes in, ill-timed, and that might be the death knell right there.
That's really, really tough. You know when you pull the trigger on a freeze, not only does it let your opponents, who already most likely knew that's what you were rocking, know that it's in your hand, but also that you have that many fewer defensive spells to deal with these pushes.
799 right-hand side, final 30 seconds. Hog Rider behind the Giant Skeleton, Mega Knight high. Inferno Tower does go to the Skeleton Dragons, though, still not going to be able to break through. Second Hog comes in, 15 seconds
There's the freeze. Hog trying to break on through. Does it get a hit? It does get a hit. A big, big hit, Rich.
Oh my word, here we go. Double barrels in on the right-hand side. Poison trying to do it. Goblin Barrel on. Oh my gosh, I don't know if this is going to happen. 537.
Earthquake in! Oh my gosh, 14 HP! A second late on the Earthquake spells the difference for Bale and Lindsay, and look at the frustration on the Dignitas side of your screen.
There's no cam on me right now. My jaw is on the floor. Bale and Lindsay could see their way out of the tunnel. Sam and Morten just collapsed it with a pile of rocks.
I mean, they were so close to stealing that game back. They needed one more tick from that Earthquake to seal the deal. But Sam and Morten back together. Perfect as ever. Love to see it.
Wow. Just an absolute wow. What a finish. And I don't know yet if that's the closest finish of the weekend, but 14 HP. That's pretty darn thin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is so far. I mean, of course it's Morten giving us another nail biter, whether it's 14 HP or 1 HP. The man knows how to put on a show. And look at this. Everything coming towards that left-hand tower. All of a sudden you look and you see, wait a second, with that spell value coming in, that poison ticking away, Sam and Morten could really be in trouble. A great Log comes in defensively to clean up all those barrels, but that Earthquake just does not tick in time. And honestly, I love to see the replay of that, but I wish I could see the replay of Lindsay's face because he is so upset that that Earthquake tick does not come in, and you understand why. They had it. They had it in the bag.
I just can't believe that Hog actually connected. You saw everything in the Hog's way. It was like it was trying to go bouldering, and more rocks were being rolled down at it. Just a Log knocking it back. One sliver of HP enough to tick on and get that hit. What a crazy close finish. And you have to, again, keep in mind that not only did they lose the set here, but now they have to go and win King of the Hill and 1v1 against some combination of these four superstars.
Yeah, and what they did there at the end was incredible. That battle that went on between both of them, trying to get the Hog to the tower, trying to keep it off the tower. You talked about the snowball, you talked about the Log, the freeze that came in, the drop delay on the Hog initially so it didn't get in that Giant Skeleton bomb. There was so much, or excuse me, the Inferno Tower. There's just so much going on there. They all knew, all four of them knew that entire game came down to that one interaction with the Hog Rider, and just beautiful plays from Sam and Morten.
So there you go. Sam and Morten starting off the season with a very close 2-0 win in the 2v2 set, and now we head into King of the Hill, and the question is, what are we going to see from both of these teams in King of the Hill? Will SK Gaming come out with Sam, Morten, and Javier? Does Sergio Ramos get in the mix? Sergio's the only player not in Germany in the team house for SK Gaming right now. On the other side with Dignitas, we just saw Lindsay and Bale get pulled from the 1v1 set into the 2v2. Do they get mixed into the King of the Hill? Do you think that Bale or Lindsay gets put in? And both of them. Wow.
I mean, it feels like they had to, right? We topped the show with talking about moving them into the 2v2. Is that a mistake or not? And so far, it looks like it didn't really pay off for Dignitas, even though that second game was so close. But KotH coming out, that means we haven't seen Flash at all. He'll be saved for 1v1 maybe. KotH could still come out again. Lindsay and Bale doing, I guess, back-to-back duty in the first 2 sets, but how does that feel when you just got swept by SK?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't feel great about it, but I also think they're probably chomping at the bit. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Game number 1, the one and only CCGS World Champion, Sergio Ramos, up against Colombia's captain in KotH.
Yeah, nice to see Sergio Ramos out there. We didn't get a whole lot of him last season, honestly. He only played a handful of games. He played 3 games, and he was kind of in a rough season. He was a 0% win rate, so looking to bounce back right now. Ooh.
So double bait from KotH from the Colombian.
KotH looking for just a little bit of shots on the left-hand side from that Dark Goblin, but he placed it a second too early and then walks right into that cannon cart. So you see a bit of the tilt of the head there from KotH, not happy about his first couple interactions.
And Hunter in the back should fully counter. No, doesn't get it.
Wow, and Sergio Ramos very frustrated with that, as you understand why. You talk about it being a full counter and just not on top of it.
Just a little bit off with the timing there, so a lot of damage comes on in. 1723 log to the left-hand side. Fisherman cycle in the back now that Sergio's not worried about something big getting pulled on in. You know, you see players Fisherman cycle because it's 3 elixir early on in a game and get caught by something silly like a Mega Knight, Royal Giant. Giant Skeleton would be the worst one, obviously, but at this stage, not concerned.
Yeah.
And now a pile of recruits hiding that fish boy.
So Bomb Tower going to be very, very happy to see in KotH's arsenal here defensively. Going to really help with the Royal Recruits as we move through this game. And the ability to get back around to a second Bomb Tower when we are in double and triple elixir time to deal with more and more recruits coming on the board is going to be a very nice luxury for the Dignitas representative
Interesting to see... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Interesting to see KotH going to the outside corner there now that he knows he's not against Tornado. So, very, very strange choice in that moment.
And right now, Sergio Ramos is just getting straight overwhelmed, and you can see the frustration. Dark Goblin going to come in and get more shots, and Sergio is beside himself at the mistakes he's making.
Well, he's way behind on Elixir, way behind on damage, and probably playing Royal Hogs here, and there you go. So you see the Royal Hogs come out and just knows he's against Bomb Tower, Fireball, and then Log on top of that. Just knows that his chances of breaking through are so small, and he's behind on Elixir.
Yeah, and then again, the ability for KotH to just get these Dark Goblins on the board, to stack Dark Goblins even, and no big spell from Sergio Ramos. This is just a horrible, horrible matchup for our former world champion. And everyone knows it, including Sergio himself.
Yeah, you can see the look of frustration on his face, and you saw that manifest really, really, really early here as well. So KotH out to a nice start here, exactly what they need in King of the Hill, a win to open things up. And a good start for him, man. I'm excited. KotH's one of those guys who was phenomenal in CRL Latin America and didn't quite put it together in West, but the expectation's always been high, especially how well he's done internationally for his country. So seeing him perform nicely here is a great thing.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a bit of a bummer to kind of watch Sergio Ramos have such a struggle over his last few matches. I mean, again, he's played 4 games in the last, I guess now and last season combined, and he's not able to pick up a 1-game win. Not a set win, but not even a game win. And today, just completely outmatched just by his deck pick. His deck decision, as you can see, if you look at his spells, again, how are you going to get to those Dark Goblins? How are you going to clean up all the barrels coming in? There's just no way to do it.
Yeah, pretty rough going for Sergio Ramos in the opening. KotH came out, he's done at least his job, got the 1 win he needs. The question is, can he add more? And I believe coming up next, was it Javi KotH was number 2 on this one?
So next up, it will be Javi KotH going up against KotH. Again, Morton is going to be closing things out for SK Gaming, and Lindsay and Bale are just kind of hanging out in the wings, wondering how far KotH is going to go.
Well, it'll be good. And here's the question. I don't know who they have planned for 1v1, right? So you'd love to have KotH come out and blast through everybody, But if he does that, then do you send him back out in 1v1 or do you send Flash out for 1v1? So I don't know what their game plan is overall. And is there almost something valuable to KotH not sweeping and passing it over to his teammates Lindsay and Bale if he is your plan for that third and final set?
I think, honestly, I don't know about a lot of what you just said, but I will focus on the last thing you said, and I think that if he can, KotH just has to win the set out. I think a sweep over SK would be massive for the confidence of Dignitas, especially after the way that first set went. So let's see if KotH can keep the heat rolling here against Javi 14. Top of your screen, one of the best win rates in head-to-head play, period.
62% win rate in head-to-head play, 62% overall as well when you add all 3 sets together. And in King of the Hill, tied for second place at 5 career sweeps.
Oh, it's crazy to think that means there's 15 games that happen without him losing. Obviously, all not in a row, but... Oh, and there you see it again, man. It's just really tough. And this is actually kind of a good moment to speak on something that happened yesterday. We understand that the balloons can get pushed by the Skeleton Dragons, bats, and minions, and we understand the way that the interactions work with the buildings, but the problem is when you're going up against Balloon and you play a building carelessly, it's really, really a tough... I mean, look at it. Javi's already calling good game here. He bounces...
Oh, boy.
It's surprising because he got that big damage in on the left-hand side, but maybe he's not feeling confident about a 2-tower game.
Yeah, knows he is way far behind, and the lightning makes that even more nasty as time goes on. So Musketeer to be dealt with. And yeah, I think that to finish the point that you were saying is that, yes, it was a nice play yesterday. I believe it was JP, is that who we're talking about, to push the balloon around the Goblin Cage. But, you know, you've seen 4 cards, you know you're up against Balloon. You maybe play the Goblin Cage in a slightly different spot to make it so that move isn't possible.
Yeah, and this obviously is a little bit more forgivable because it was the 3rd card played by KotH, and he'd only seen Heal Spirit and Barb Barrel, but that's just kind of something to elaborate on what happened yesterday and why it is a misplay when you know what you're playing against and you're careless with your buildings.
Royal Giant, Heal Spirit does not get on. That's really important for Javi in this case. Holds on here for a moment, but gonna still have to get that left-hand tower down and push into that Royal Giant Lightning Barb Hut connection on the right-hand side when it gets going.
Yeah, and I'm also pretty curious to see how KotH is going to deal with these balloon pushes once they get into double and triple elixir time. It'll be interesting.
Cycles the Lumberjack to the left-hand side, does Javi, and now Balloon in front.
Light.
Interesting lightning there.
Yeah, it cleans up this 2 Skeleton Dragons and the Musketeer, stops everything dead in its tracks, and kind of preserves the health of this Barb Hut. But here we go. 2-tower game.
Final 30 seconds, Musketeer on the board, Barb Hut on the board, and now Muskie's going in both directions.
So battle at the bridge here happening. Royal Giant creeping up for KotH.
And it's going to sit on that lightning here. Doesn't even need it at this stage because he can pull the Musketeer in, goes and puts it on tower, and this is just totally rough for Javi. Good start to the game, but you see him call good game. He knew a lot about what was going on in that moment when the big push came down the left-hand side and realized, I think when he realized he was up against the lightning version of Royal Giant, he saw how hard it was going to be to play defense.
I mean, that's the key of it right there, is once he saw that lightning come out early on, he saw that he was able to obviously get his balloon through, and then he saw the massive counter push come in from KotH, and then KotH's ability to drop those lightnings exactly where he needed them every single time, because he was at an advantage the entire game, it felt like, whether it was elixir or damage. It just really put Javi in a tough spot to be in. You saw it even at the end there, he was able to lightning 2 Skeleton Dragons and a Musketeer just because he could. You know, obviously that's a great defensive play to make, but he never had to use it to save himself. It was always to create openings for himself.
Yeah, no, very, very nice choices so far by KotH. Interesting to see that RG Lightning has started to make a comeback just a little bit. Of course, RG Fisherman Hunter with Fireball has been the popular version of Royal Giant throughout our last month, but Royal Giant Lightning Cycle starting to come up a little bit more, and you see the value here, especially because of how popular Musketeer is right now.
Yeah, and you look at what Javi has in the tank there. He had 2 Elixir, and there was about 20 Elixir on the board for KotH. And so Javi calling good game there, recognizing just where he was, where his position was in this game. Probably also recognizing the matchup, but just knowing he was already so far behind that early on, and going up against Royal Giant in a 2-tower game, just really difficult.
And you add in that there's no really great way for him to protect the Musketeer, because you have 2 different jobs, right? You have the Lightning that can get the Musketeer off, and he had no way to really protect her from the Fisherman as well. So, you know, you dodge one bullet, and you get hit by the other one no matter what you do. So a rough spot there for Javi. KotH now 2-0 to start off this King of the Hill.
Yeah, and that's why that deck construction can be so dominant. You really control the front end of your Royal Giant push with the Fisherman, and then the back end with any of those big DPS units that you're trying to protect. Back there, the Lightning comes in, and it's so brutal because you don't ever want to give that Lightning value on your tower. It does so much, and it adds up so quickly over just a couple of minutes. So yeah, like you said, KotH playing very well right now, 2-0. Now it's going to be Morten coming out again for SK to try to close this game out, close this match out here in a very important set that is demanding a sweep from SK.
Well, you talk about sweeps, you can talk about Morten. 3 sweeps in his career in Clash Royale League in this King of the Hill set. Certainly capable of doing it. Lifetime win rate, 65%, 20 wins, 11 losses in King of the Hill. So you see the Skeleton Dragons and Royal Recruits. First thought here is that it's 6 Loon, the Balloon Cycle deck with Lumberjack. And there you go, aggressive Balloon early in this one.
Hunter there to meet it, but Hunter gonna have some struggles. A nice snowball coming in, gonna stop the drop, but death damage will come in and take out the Hunter.
So Snowball, Fireball, and Hunter, all pieces that can be used by Morten to play some defense. King Tower should be activated here by that Skeleton Bomb.
Nice pull with the Fisherman there. Patient play from KotH.
And now setting up on the left-hand side is the Colombian. We'll see if he does get caught with any sort of mistakes with that Giant Skeleton. And here you go, Balloon behind the GS, and with the Giant Skeleton distracting the Musketeer, this should be a pretty big connection.
The Balloon coming in. Snowball comes in just in time to help that Musketeer. It's going to be bomb drop on both sides now. 2262 is the magic number on the left-hand side. Oh, and
the Heal Spirit just not quite enough to save that Musketeer.
Yeah, I mean, that Hunter up high and in your face is going to be great, but Morten sacrificing a ton of damage on the right-hand side, just allowing the recruits to do whatever they'd like on his Princess Tower.
14:34 remains as we go into our double elixir time. KotH in a pretty good spot with the lead in what could be the 3rd and final game of the set.
A sweep for KotH in this King of the Hill would be massive for Dignitas. Reinvigorate them and probably reignite the flame behind them that they walked into today with before they got swept in that 2v2.
He has not swept King of the Hill since 2018 in CRL Latin America when he was back with Cream before they were Real Betis. This would be the first one in 5 seasons, or in 4 seasons, for the Colombian.
So here we go, dual lane push here coming from KotH. Very light push on the left-hand side because the Hunter is there, so he doubles down on the right with the Lumberjack.
And try to play defense as much as he possibly can here. Will he turn it into some sort of counter push? Ahead by 1 on Elixir. Musketeer now in response for the Hunter. As we go into sudden death overtime, it's KotH with the aggression and the continued pressure against the German.
This is tough. A great Fireball comes in, well-timed, but Snowball comes in late with a Heal Spirit, allows the death damage, but still, Morten managed that Balloon so well with having no units to attack the skies.
It's a good Giant Skeleton here, needs to do something, and there goes the Miner just to hold on. Brilliant Miner there from Morten to support that Giant Skeleton on defense. That's a heads-up S-tier defensive play.
150%. Morten, though, still finding himself behind and having trouble breaking on through. Fisherman almost locks on the Hunter. Somehow those Skellies stay alive long enough, even with the Heal Spirit there, to pop.
if Morten wins this game, and that is a very, very big if in this stage, it's that miner that we just saw on defense that saved that right-hand tower. And that's the thing, is you try to figure out how do you keep troops inside that giant skeleton death bomb without a NATO. We just saw one way to get it done.
The ability that Morten has had to hang on as long as he has with this matchup has been absolutely just mesmerizing to watch him play, because he's got one unit that does splash damage, Rich. One unit.
Oh boy. Left-hand tower down. KotH with the big vamos. 3 up, 3 down. Kicking off his season with a King of the Hill sweep.
A really, really rough start for Dignitas in the 2v2 set. KotH turns everything around. We're back to an even game, 0-0. We're going to the 1v1 set. The best head-to-head guys coming out from each squad to bring things home. But who will it be today? Will it be Javi? Will it be Sergio? And then, of course, on Dignitas' side, do you bring KotH back out, or do you give Flash a chance?
I don't know, man. KotH's got the hot hand right now, but did just burn through 3 decks, and the question is, how many decks has he been prepping for this weekend? You got to go into a BO3. You want to have at least one more deck that you haven't played yet, hopefully. That's a big, big question.
Yeah, and just a really big tip of the hat here, not only to Morten for staying alive as long as he did, but KotH's analysts and coaches for giving him incredible matchups. Maybe it was the luck of the draw, maybe they saw it in the future, but if you look at this matchup again, it was kind of what I was talking about at the end of the game. How much splash damage does Morten have to deal with the 6-man and to be able to get to the balloon? How many units does he have to actually attack the skies? All of these things come into play, especially when 5 minutes has gone by with a deck that cycles that quick from KotH. The only way Morten wins that game is by KotH making huge mistakes.
Yeah, and didn't happen here. KotH clean play. So now we go into the 1v1 set, our third and final set. And for SK, you have 2 options. You have Javi KotH and Sergio Ramos. My guess here is that Javi's the one who comes out for that third and final set. I know he's fired up. I've talked to them a bit in the lead up to this, and he really wants to prove that he is the best in the world and feels like this fall season is the big shot to get it done. On the other side, again, the question is, do you go Flash, who's exposed 0 decks, or KotH's got the hot hand?
Man, it's so tough. I feel like you go KotH because he's got the hot hand. He just played so well. He's hyped up right now. He's feeling himself. He's got great matchups in all 3 of those games. I know it's tough to hope that luck continues on, from an analyst standpoint, but you've also got a hot hand out there that's just playing real well. His interactions have been on point. He's been playing so patient. He's found exact moments to strike. Whether or not the elixir is a factor in this, he's doing it the way that you're supposed to. He's finding the correct moments to attack. He's finding the best ways to defend, the most efficient ways to defend, and he's punishing his opponents for it.
Yeah, and this is, again, the hope that you had. We remember talking to Koji and Manu, our co-hosts over on CRL Espanol, and they could not stop talking about how great KotH was going into the CRL West Spring split when he and Luke Dubs were late for Cream in that season, and we never really saw the payoff of the promise during 2019, but right here we are seeing flashes, no pun intended, of what KotH's capable of.
Yeah, so here we go. We're going to get into that 1v1 set. We'll see who's coming out for both squads, and it looks like it will be KotH once again going up against Javi KotH. So Morten's going to take a seat for the day after a great 2v2 set and a good showing there in King of the Hill, but matchup has been the story of the day for Dignitas.
Well, speaking of matchups, I love this one. There is so much history behind these two, because let's go back to CRL Latin America 2018 when Cream was the presumptive champion, supposed to go all the way to the World Finals. And in that final match, the best of 5 for CRL Latin America, Javi KotH beat KotH not once, but twice in 1v1 sets to get the championship for Vivo Keyed.
It hurts. You don't forget those. And the balloon. Look at this. Just a straight up wannabe tower trade going on here on both sides of the map. And when I say wannabe, I think it's because that top left tower, yes, it will survive. It
will survive, and again, with KotH not running a big spell here, it will be required that he actually gets on tower here to get that one down. So now Javi knows where the game is played. The real question here is, does KotH go? And yes, he does. He goes hard on the opposite
And you know
lane.
what? He needs to go hard in the opposite lane. And Javi with the miner right on the bridge so that lumberjack is in range, coupled with the arrows. Beautiful. And that is why he's Javi KotH.
Arrow Zap making a comeback in Lavaloon Miner as of late. And you understand why with how popular Mortar, Skeleton Barrel, Double Bait, a lot of decks that run things that are susceptible to arrows and zap in the meta right now. And you see using that full-on three-part combination there on defense worked wonders for the Spaniard.
So Javi here going to the right. He's going to sacrifice that Princess Tower, but obviously going to avoid the 3 crown as best he can. So there you go. Balloon going to come in with the Fisherman, taking care of the Musketeer. And now you see the Lava Hound making his way to KotH's side of the map.
Yeah, the Barb's just putting a little bit of pressure on that side and buying enough room for Javi Skeleton Dragons and Balloon to come behind. This is going to be very, very difficult for KotH to deal with. Miner goes right to that Musketeer,
and a
beautiful zap.
That is massive, and that's exactly what Javi KotH needs to do. You look at what KotH can do to stop the balloon push, it's not a whole lot. It's Skeleton Dragons plus a Musketeer, and you get those Skelly Dragons easy with the arrows, Miner plus Zap on the Musketeer, and this is going to be an easy pickup for Javi, in my opinion.
Got to stop this balloon push here. Miner will go in. Raged up Balloon might get a connection. It does get a single drop, but this Miner should be enough to finish things off on the right-hand side. Heal Spirit comes in, and that's 30 HP. No, it's not. 3 crown down. Javi KotH with the big win in game one.
I mean, really, really nice plays, and I think one of the things that's always impressed us the most about Javi is the way that he can play defense for free, almost. It almost feels like it's for free. Obviously, it's not because we see cards come down, but the efficiency in which he can make those positive elixir trades to turn what looks like a tower down into 5 elixir committed for 0 damage is just astonishing every single time. 3 years he's been doing it, and it still drops my jaw every time.
And the woes of Javi continue for KotH here. You gotta wonder what the pressure feels like, not only knowing that he has to win 2 in a row to win, but 2 in a row against a guy who's had his number throughout their Clash Royale career. I have to wonder if a lot of that shine from the King of the Hill sweep is starting to wear off with the Colombian.
Yeah, so here we go. We're going to look at that Miner on defense there. It obviously looks a lot easier when you watch it in slow motion after we've talked about it, but the heads-up play to do that, and as you can see, he's just barely ticking on 5 elixir right there after dropping the Miner plus the arrows. So doing everything he could to really, really give himself a strong lead early in the game.
And you see just picture-perfect gameplay. Nothing fancy here, just exactly how you're supposed to do it. Balloon comes behind the Lava Hound. Miner's distracted first, or the Musketeer's distracted. Miner comes in to get her. GG, well played.
And I think that's exactly a great thing to highlight. It's not fancy, it's just perfect. And that's exactly what you expect. The whole thing of the Miner going to the Musketeer and re-zapping the Princess and King onto the Miner, it's elementary. It's what we've been doing since we learned that that Balloon and Miner worked well together, right? Oh, we should use Zap. But the way that Javi does it consistently time and time again at the highest level in those high pressure moments and situations is why he's top tier. It's why he's S tier. And it's why, honestly, you and I can't shut up about him even after 3 years.
Yeah, he's just a fun player to watch. And now he's going to be playing with a little bit more looseness here in game number 2. Match point for SK Gaming, potentially. 2 chances to close things out. KotH with his back to the wall right now, and this would be a devastating one to get so close but fall so short. Let's go into game number 2 of our 3rd and final set.
It's a tough spot for KotH to be in, right? Because let's say he loses the 1v1, they lose the match, and it almost feels like his sweep gets forgotten about because it didn't actually have a huge weight in the outcome of where Dignitas lies at the end of the day.
You see Javi just waiting here, knowing not falling for the early cycle cards, and puts the baby dragon down in response to the skeleton dragons. And look at the patience out of Javi now twice. Of course, not feeling like he has to spend when he sees the cycle cards. Good choice there early on. And then, again, some patience with that bar barrel.
Nice interaction there with the Fisherman, playing an offset to the right. Going to work to the right to kite the baby dragon. Going to pull the barb off the tower.
So Royal Giant for KotH, the most popular Royal Giant deck, at least from last month, and probably still pretty popular this month, even with the Heal Spirit range nerf.
And Bowler, a card that's honestly slowly working his way into the meta. Maybe I've seen him more and more in Grand Challenges and on Ladder lately.
RG to the left-hand side, Bar Barrel in response. And Lumberjack does finally get down to chunk that Royal Giant down. 1772 on the left-hand side.
Yeah, nice moment there for KotH to recognize Bowler's out, Inferno's out. He probably does have a Lumberjack to come back around, but a few shots will come in, and Javi has to give him, you know, the well played for it.
So a good start here for KotH in game number 2. And Bowler, a card that we've seen pop up a bit since it's almost sort of, I guess, like not respected buff to a certain degree. People played with it a bit. You saw some ex-Bowler or Bowler Bow come back when Bowler was first buffed again, and you saw, of course, Graveyard make its way into the meta for Bowler once this was buffed again, but has not really like taken a huge spot overall in the Clash Royale meta.
I mean, I think he's maybe just a little bit too expensive, a little too squishy, and a little too slow to be exactly perfect competitively. But again, he's starting to show up more and more. And maybe that's going to have to do a lot with the recruits coming back into the meta.
Setting up on the left-hand side. There comes the freeze. So this is probably Balloon here for Javi KotH.
Nice freeze to help that Inferno Dragon burn that RG down. Going to deal with those Skeleton Dragons well. And just like he called it, Balloon, Lumberjack, Bowler all coming down the right-hand lane.
And Hunter just a little bit off here. Balloon does get death damage, not a connection, but Javi may be starting to get in a little bit more rhythm as we go into sudden death overtime.
This becomes more into that double and triple. Obviously, KotH's got a more offensive deck, but the ability to break through these pushes that are going to come through Lumberjack, Barb Barrel, you know, Baby Dragon, Balloon, it's going to be really difficult to keep up with those, so he needs to win as fast as possible.
A little bit of a funky NATO, but you understand the purpose there, getting the Skeleton Dragon's DPS off that left-hand tower and onto that beefy Bowler on the right-hand side. Javi needs to do something about these Royal Giants, and a Fisherman Freeze comes in to stop the Fish Boy, and a nice Barb Barrel behind. Royal Giant not going to get a shot. Huge defensive play by Javi on the left.
Yeah, that barrel was everything right there. Not only did it help take out the Fisherman, cleans up those skeletons as well, gets a little bit of damage on that RG and prevents that one hit from coming in. But KotH is relentless right now.
Pressure is on, and Royal Giant all over that left-hand tower. 6:24 remaining. Javi needs to do something quick.
And KotH needs to do the smart thing by keeping up the pressure right now and baiting out a freeze. He needs to get that freeze out of Javi, but he doesn't want it to come in on the tower. Inferno Dragon locked on the left, Balloon coming on the right.
A lot of pressure in both lanes. The freeze comes in. 1 HP.
Oh my God.
Gets its first huge
Doesn't
connection.
get the second. It doesn't get the second. This is going to do it. Is there any way to stop this Royal Giant? He doesn't have freeze defensively. There's the NATO. A perfect NATO.
Ooh. Javi is playing a gem of a game here. Triple Elixir. Balloon to the right-hand side. Lumberjack to the left. Does not get a shot. Fireball trying to help here. Final 30 seconds. Will that freeze be enough?
The NATO!
The NATO to
pull it
away!
That is massive. The Barb Barrel to come in, baits out the spell. Balloon damage comes in. Javi's in the lead.
Oh my gosh, Royal Giant gets healed up, and the freeze on defense! This is absolutely bananas! Can he stop the push on the left-hand side? 44 HP
Fireball
remaining.
in!
Fireball comes in!
Oh my goodness, my neighbors, my dog, my girlfriend. I feel like you could probably hear me right now. We're all the way across town. Good Lord, that was a game.
That was the game of the week. Calling it right now. I don't care what you do. 14 HP earlier? What are you talking about? That's the one right there. Javi and KotH putting on a show.
Wow. Just freaking wow, man. The ability of Javi to stay in the game as long as he did. KotH recognizing exactly when and where he needed to attack, when to switch lanes, when to double down on defense, when to sell out on offense. Everything about it was so beautiful to watch. Here we go. Game 3, baby. This is what it's all about.
Wow. Just absolute wow. Javi was pulling out every single trick he could think of. The NATO on defense to pull the RG back, the freeze behind it, the NATO on offense to try to make just enough room for that balloon to kill that right-hand tower, and just by a split second, Javi didn't get that
And here
win.
we go. I mean, we saw this was one of the most beautiful defensive sequences. It keeps the Heal Spirit off the Royal Giant. It takes out the Skeletons. It helps with the Fisherman. The freeze comes in. That was a moment there where KotH probably felt a little wind getting taken out of his sails, especially when things like this were happening. The balloon drop with the freeze, but KotH doing the correct thing, never giving up, staying incredibly aggressive with that Royal Giant because there was only 2 ways for Javi to slow him down, and eventually they were not going to be in cycle.
And look at that Heal Spirit just barely saving that right-hand tower. That's a game saver right there. That's the one that got KotH the win and has kept Dignitas in it for now. And the defensive freeze here, Javi just trying to stay alive, but 413, too big of a gap. He cannot beat out the spell cycle. GG, well played. We're going to game 3.
And I love the excitement on KotH's face. You saw him get up, the fist pump, hopping around, yelling. That is exactly what you should do, man. You are on a hell of a run today. You've got a sweeping King of the Hill. You just bringing Javi to game 3 in the 1v1. And if he brings this home for Dignitas, that is just... he is the best sign you made, because this is exactly what Dig needs. We've looked at them for season after season after season, and moments like this is something it feels like has not been given to them at all.
Well, it's not only potentially a big upset for Dignitas overall, but a big bit of redemption for KotH, who, like we said before, was expected to be much better in 2019, who has a lot of history with Javi, so you know that this next game means so much to him and the team overall.
Man, I don't even know what to think. I don't know what the matchup's going to be. I want to know what's going through each of their heads, what the pressure feels like. These guys are vets, you know. They've been in these situations many, many times before, so I can't imagine they're feeling that nervous, but I gotta think SK's feeling a little bit of it. They gotta be like, well, what happened? We were doing so well. Who is this KotH? Where did he come from?
Yeah, I mean, that King of the Hill was just a ton of bricks falling on your head, of course. And then here you go. I mean, Javi played a great game 1, had a good matchup. Game number 2, played his heart out. I mean, highlight reel Javi. You know what I'm saying? Doing what he does all the time, going for big-time plays in big-time moments. And just a couple ticks the right and wrong direction make it so he couldn't steal that game away. So now a lot of pressure here on the third and final game. And I do think that there's a lot more pressure here for Dignitas than there is for SK Gaming, right? I believe that Dignitas has a much harder look overall for the season, whereas SK Gaming, they've fallen, they've bounced back. I think that this probably means a bit more in week 1 for Dig than it does for SK.
I completely agree, and I'm very curious to see, you know, if Dignitas is going to continue to stick with this lineup just because of how well KotH has played. Do they continue to keep him in that King of the Hill and then maybe play him in the 1v1, maybe bring in Flash? Because right now I can't imagine not wanting KotH to be in your head-to-head play in that 1v1 set. So really, really great. Game 3 coming your way in just 1 moment. Players are still deciding their final deck decisions, and I just don't know. I want some popcorn. I want to sit back and watch, because this is going to be an incredible 1v1 set.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you almost wish you're like, do I have to be casting this? Kind of sit back and enjoy what I'm seeing? This is amazing. This is so much fun to watch. Let's go jump in to game number 3. Javi 14 and KotH match point.
And the incredible plays by Javi just really showcase how great KotH has been playing.
Easy pickup there for opening play. Minor out of Javi.
And it looks like in the chat, I've seen a few people say this on Twitch and on YouTube, but I think the heart and play of KotH has actually swayed a couple SK fans today.
Aggressive early graveyard in from the Colombian. Javi goes ahead and cleans that up with arrows, barbs behind.
Okay, so we know exactly what Javi's rocking right now. He's calling good luck out. He's got the barbs, he's got the arrows, he's got the minor. You know Lava Hound's in that deck as well, and KotH does have responses to air units, but gonna have a tough time getting that graveyard damage in.
Good protection on the Ewiz with the Knight. A little bit rote there. Yeah. This time KotH ahead of his opponent with that
really nice play there to keep that Ewiz at 100% HP.
And now loading up. Probably not going to pull the trigger on a graveyard in this case. No, it's ill-advised with all the stuff that's on the board, and have to contend with this in the opposite direction. Hunter is the option.
This is a great moment.
First 90 seconds away.
This is a great moment for KotH because he was able to defend so efficiently that he was up in Elixir, that he's able to cycle this Hunter, not really have to support it, and kind of reset, as you see he does right there with the Goblin Cage.
And there you go. First Lava Hound down for Javi as we get closer to double Elixir time. And an E-Wiz in the corner in response.
Yeah, so here we go. 3 air defense cards, but Graveyard as your win condition. How is KotH going to punish Javi?
And Barb's high. Javi feeling, I guess, comfortable with the other options he has on defense between the Zap, the Arrows, and the Skeleton Dragons.
Yeah, and if you look, I mean, he's already almost back to his Barbs, right? I think he's maybe 1 card away now.
And again, patience out of KotH not to go down to 0 and put the Graveyard on the board, but still a pretty hefty push coming.
Yeah, and that Zap coupled with those Barbs is going to actually clean everything up, giving KotH just a 1 Elixir advantage. And I love it.
And this is smart. This is smart out of KotH to just keep the pressure on and not give Javi a chance to really breathe and build up a balloon.
Yeah, and I also kind of love those moments. And I believe KotH was also trying to feel out if Javi was going to go hyper-aggressive with the defending of a Graveyard. Meet him right at the river, drop something on the back end. But since he didn't do that, there it is. That's what I think KotH was looking for last time, because we haven't seen him pull the trigger on the Graveyard. I think he's trying to bait out the cards to then get some spell damage and damage on the tower.
This is a nice little opportunity here, though, for Javi. He has a bit of an Elixir advantage after that one. A lot of expenditure from KotH. And now putting together a Lavaloon push, and Miner goes to the back, and no pickup against the Miner.
Miner on the Hunter. E-Wiz off to the side to try to help this balloon, or help stop this balloon, I should say. But that Zap is going to be really, really brutal.
Huge drop with death damage. And look at that. Skeleton Dragons on. Javi KotH going to go ahead and take this one.
KotH making one of his few mistakes today, and that is it. Javi KotH is back, and look at KotH. What a day for that young man. How frustrating it must be to go that far, play that well, and then 1 balloon drop ruins it all.
Wow, absolute wow. The curse, I guess, for KotH cannot get past Javi. And you see Javi KotH so pumped up there. Look, that's a big sigh of relief for this team. They got swept in King of the Hill, went to Game 3 here for SK Gaming. You gotta know the emotions are running high right now over there in Germany.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just looking at the player cam on KotH, and I just feel for the guy. He played so well today. He was doing so great with kind of baiting out stuff from Javi, not being able to pull the trigger on the Graveyard, though he got a lot of damage in, but it was just that last Lava Hound Javi dropped down. After, I mean, here's the first push that came in, but it was the last Lava Hound that Javi dropped down. It played defense perfectly and started that counter push that really ended the game.
I mean, this was just such a fascinating match overall, the back and forth. I mean, game number 2, it was already a pretty solid candidate for game of the year, but this final push from Javi KotH, it's just every time, if you give him an opportunity to beat you, he's gonna do it more often than not.
Yeah, and the other thing that I know is still something that people might be getting used to, because the Skeleton Dragons are a newer card in the game, but you saw KotH go a half second late on the drop to get those Skeleton Dragons to retarget onto, I believe it was his Knight, but whatever it was, or his Hunter, he didn't want it on his Princess Tower, but those Skeleton Dragons, they retarget so quickly and get those burps out, or I guess belches if you want to call them. I think they're the same as the baby dragons. So Javi KotH, big win today for SK Gaming. SK Gaming going up 1-0, which a lot of people I think expected if you look at the Twitter polls that Esports Royale put up, but I definitely don't think that anyone thought it was going to go just like this.
No, I think this is a whole lot closer than anyone. And look, after the 2v2 shellacking SK put down, you kind of felt like it was going to be a 2-set game, a 2-set match overall. And then to take it down so close, the sweep in 2v2 for SK, the sweep in King of the Hill for Dig, and then a full-on 3-game BO3. So some excitement here. You got to feel for Dig, and you talked about the big question already. What do they do in 2v2? And this is a good example here. They dominated King of the Hill, But they can't. If you can't win the 2v2, you're gonna lose more matches than you win by a pretty significant.
Yeah, and
margin.
you know how many King of the Hills are going to go just like that, right? How many of them are going to be just clean sweeps? Other ones are going to be grueling battles. Maybe they go all 5 games, they go the distance, and then both your 1v1 players, maybe they're tilted, maybe they're burnt out, maybe their decks they're not feeling confident about. It's just one of those things. Again, you'll hear any CR pro talk about it, coach, analyst. You and me have been saying it for years. 2v2 is so important, and it will always be important. Today, you even backed it up with numbers saying that the team that wins 2v2, what was it, 75% of the time, wins the match?
Between 75 and 85%. I think right now in CRL East, it's almost 85%.
Yeah, and that's a those numbers cannot be ignored.
Nope, not at all. So Dig has to go back to the drawing board, but you have KotH go for King of the Hill. So it's one of those things where maybe you put Flash and KotH Go, who are more experienced in 2v2, back into that set, and the experiment of Lindsay and Bale was short-lived. Who knows? What I do know, Andrew, is we are not done yet. 2 more matches. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 5 with Clash Royale League West. Welcome back, everyone. Match number 2 on this beautiful Sunday in Clash Royale League West. Yesterday was all sweep city domination throughout the day. Today we kick things off in a totally different way. Sweep to open one way, sweep the opposite way, and then all the way down to a best of 3 with a deciding match victory game for Javi KotH. Andrew, you know, this is the first time we've gone all the way through, but we have seen now our third King of the Hill sweep so far this season. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really, really is. And it's one of those things that when you look back kind of on the history of King of the Hill sweeps, a lot of them make sense. You see a lot of those guys up there that you and I talk about regularly being some of the best head-to-head players in the world. But again, as we said during that last sweep, it can be done by literally anyone to any team. That is the one thing that we've learned with sweeps in CRL. And my hat goes off to KotH. He played an incredible game today. He played an incredible day of matches for CRL, and it's just a bummer they weren't able to walk away with the W. But you did mention the word sweep, and I think that really plays a lot into what we're doing now, which is going to be 2 teams that knew nothing other than sweeps. Tribe swept the entire regular season, and Chivas got swept all season. And I'm talking more macro than micro. Tribe was 4-0 at the end of the regular season in the spring, and Chivas was 0-4. So maybe talk to me a little bit about what you think this means for both these squads. I mean, Tribe, I feel like, could lose a game and it doesn't really matter, but what does this mean for Chivas, who have not won a match with this new name?
Well, you see a lot of big changes in the offseason for Chivas, and we'll go to the rosters in a little bit, but Chivas just couldn't get it together in 2v2, which is, I think, a big reason why their offseason addition of the former Team Liquid player Diego B is huge for Chivas Esports. He brings so much 2v2 experience, having played at the highest level for a very long time. I think he's a massive addition. The question is, does he actually end up in that 2v2 set? And then the rookie Kevin coming in. So Anaban and Richard out, Diego and Kevin in. Chivas making some changes, and let's keep in mind that Adrian Piedra has been in good form this offseason. I still think Tribe has the advantage in this match. I think they are the most stacked, most powerful roster in this league, except for maybe Space Station Gaming. That's a close tie between those two. But I think Chivas is a much better team this season than they were last season.
I completely agree with you, but it is going to be really tough against this Tribe Gaming squad. Again, in the spring, they were phenomenal. They did not ever go to the third set in the regular season, which means they did it in 2. Azilius and Buffmac were that dominant 2v2 duo. They did not lose one set. And of course, Jupiter King coming out and doing what he does best. Only dropped 1 game in the entirety of his regular season career last spring.
Yeah, and they nearly swept their way all the way into the championship, right? They were up 2 sets on Space Station and just got blown out by that reverse sweep. So Tribe expectations certainly high for them this time around. Chivas Esports, again, as you can see, a little different look here with Diego B having spent his entire career wearing the blue over with Team Liquid, now with Chivas Esports, and I think, again, this is a very, very good move for this team.
I mean, I really want to see how much Diego B and Adrian can influence, inspire, and kind of lead the way of these younger guys. Yes, Pompeo has been here before. Kevin is much newer, obviously, but Pompeo and Diego being a duo here in 2v2, I think will be great to see them work together. Diego has so much experience and he's so calm under pressure, and I'm assuming they have great communication with one another. They'll be banning Giant Skeleton, and we know how well Azilius and Buffmac work together for Tribe. They'll be taking Tornado off the board today in this very first 2v2 set for all 4 of these gentlemen.
Yeah, I like this. I like this pairing overall for Chivas Esports. Diego B, of course, tons of experience in 2v2, and Pompeo has been the 2v2 guy with whatever team he's been on for now 2 seasons in a row, so has experience there that maybe Kevin and certainly Adrian, who's been purely a head-to-head player, don't have. I like this pairing from Chivas a lot. I think it's the right call.
I really, really do. And so here we go. Tribe, Azilius, and Buffmac, bottom of your screen, dropping that fireball on top of that Goblin Cage and Flying Machine. Diego B and Pompeo, top of your screen for Chivas.
And again, enough can't be said about the level in 2v2 of Tribe Gaming. They were great last season, but you know, we talk a lot about the overall win leaders in 2v2, and currently the God RF holding that. but the top win rate in 2v2 overall amongst players who have more than 10 games, Azili's 30 wins, 11 losses, 73% win rate. Right now, he's the best 2v2 player in CRL West.
Yeah, and it was really, really interesting to kind of watch Azili's evolution here as a CRL pro, learning that 2v2 is where he should be. It's just, he's so good at it. And, you know, what he was doing in head-to-head just wasn't really living up to his name. But now, Azili's, like you said, with that record in 2v2, I think he's found his home.
I mean, he's become great in 2v2, and then since then has also added some solid performances in the head-to-head play in King of the Hill. On top of that, coming in good spots, 2 sweeps in the fall split last year. So it's one of those things where once he got 2v2 sorted and got, I think, that level of confidence back, it translated into his King of the Hill performances.
I mean, 150%, and I'm so glad you said it, because that's exactly what it is, right? I mean, you go from a guy that doesn't know his place, that's been so good at this game for so long, to not knowing where you belong, and then once again dominating. It's a good feeling. So let's talk about this big push on the right-hand side. Fisherman, Mega Knight, and Ram Rider all started in the back and make their way all the way through. Diego and Pompeo with these double Lava Hounds, not a lot to defend on the ground.
Yeah, but a good amount of damage on the left-hand side as well, 946 to 890 as we go towards the final 30 seconds of regulation. So we'll see, as long as this goes to a 2-tower game, where this ends up, and it looks like that left-hand tower will fall for Tribe Gaming. The question is, can they put enough on the right-hand side to extend this?
I don't know, man. They're looking like they're having a real tough time. You saw that lightning come in, but they didn't get a lot out of it. Now they're going to go Lumberjack at the river, but it's going to get turned around by the units on their Princess Tower. Ram Rider will not connect.
So what looked like it was going to be a 2-tower game, potentially into sudden death overtime, is now going to be a battle to see who can stay alive, and that miner gets trapped behind the cage all over that tower.
And the flying machines have been such a problem for Azili's and Buffmac to deal with. They've missed kites or tanks on them numerous times and had to bring out more spells, and flying machines are just like magic archers and dark goblins in that sense. When you miss a spell, it's really gonna hurt.
And they just cannot beat out the spell. Lightning comes in. Can they beat the spell here? Snowball on the right-hand side to play defense. Ram Rider trying to get through. Poison on the left.
There it is!
Oh my word, 6 HP!
What beautiful wherewithal of what is happening in the game, recognizing they need to sell out on the right. You get that pre-lightning in from Azili's and Buffmac, and that sealed the deal. What a beautiful lightning.
Wow, what an unbelievable finish. You can see Diego and Pompeo were just like, can we get a spell on that left-hand tower, please?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the spell damage on towers is less than it used to be. Darn it, darn it, darn it, come on! Could not get it done, and Tribe Gaming skates by on the skin of their teeth here in game number 1.
I cannot imagine how frustrated Pompeo and Diego must be at this moment, just giving that lightning value away. It was so obvious that it was going to come in. It was so obvious, that the defense was going to come in from Diego being Pompeo, but Azili's and Buffmac just looking into their crystal ball, dropping that lightning early and closing out the game.
Wow, absolute wow. And you saw the snowball on defense on the right-hand side. Snowball doesn't do 52 anymore. It does 48 damage to the Princess Tower. So 52 HP on the left. They can't snowball that. They can't do it. They had to use it here to try to buy themselves enough time for the poison to do work, but they just couldn't do it. And you see the first hit comes in, second hit comes in. Ram Rider gets on tower, and I think that's the closest game so far of our opening weekend.
Oh, the Ram Rider. Nothing can stop her when she has her eyes set on a tower. You can throw everything in the way, but it's just never enough. Beautiful, beautiful play there from Tribe. I love the lightning. I love that first push they put together all the way in the back. And of course, the recognition of what they were going up against. You saw how tough it was for Chivas to play the ground game.
Well, I also want to point out that we have kind of, I am proud of Chivas in this one respect, that a lot of players in that moment, maybe their brain shorts out and they forget the spell value nerf and just keep it, not throwing the snowball on the right-hand side and leaving 4 HP and no defense, or on the left-hand side, leaving 4 HP and no defense on the right-hand side. So sharp of them, they've adjusted properly to the spell damage nerf to crown towers. But in this case, that's very little comfort in a moment like this.
I am just so impressed with the defense there at the end by Tribe. Just being able to keep that damage off the tower, being able to stay alive, and also finding enough elixir somehow in their bag of tricks to get a real push going on the right. Because you saw that they couldn't just send a naked Ram Rider. They needed to really, really support it, and the way in which they did it was actually perfect.
And so still perfect pretty much in 2v2 is Azilius and Buffmac, who I believe are now as a duo 11-1 in competitive play. I have to double check my notes on that one. Yeah, they're 11-1 in competitive play as a 2v2 duo. Still 5-0 in sets, a chance to be 6-0 as a pair in 2v2 sets coming up here in just a minute. And we talked a lot about Azilius moving into 2v2, but more importantly, to think about Buffmac making that shift as well, leaving Team Liquid becoming a true head-to-head superstar at Energy, and then joining Tribe and having a big shift in his role with the team.
When he left Liquid, he was one of the most highly sought-after free agents out there. A lot of people saying he was the best head-to-head player in the world. He just needed his moment. He needed his opportunity, and he really took it and ran with it. But what is so impressive about Buffmac as he's matured is his ability to step into that role-playing position in King of the Hill and in 2v2, as you've seen. So here we go. Game 2 of 2v2, talking right now about the dominant powerhouse force that is Azilius and Buffmac.
Just astounding, just unbelievable, these two. So much fun to watch. And you gotta think that Pompeo and Diego really, you saw the look of frustration on their faces at the end of that one. One tick of a poison. Brutal.
A slight miscommunication, slight misplay, nothing but frustration when it comes down to something as small as that. I was talking to the God RF. This is a long time ago when he was helping coach me with some play, and he was telling me, it's okay when you lose by just a little bit because it shows that you're making most all the right decisions. You've maybe only made 1 or 2 mistakes in the whole game, but when it's at the top level, it doesn't matter. It still hurts so much.
Graveyard now for Tribe Gaming in game number 2. Probably a similar look, the opposite direction from Chivas as well. And those, I feel like I've been hearing those skeleton dragons for about 90 seconds at this point. Those were on the board forever.
Yeah, another Barb Hut going to come down here, meet that push on the left-hand side.
And it's Balloon Graveyard combo for Tribe Gaming. Fascinating, and that's a huge fireball freeze on the right. That will be a connection and a huge
double drop. No, does not get the second drop in, even though it's raged up, but damage done nonetheless.
So interesting to see the Graveyard Balloon combination out of Tribe, and a lot of spell value there in the middle with 2 Musketeers right next to each other.
Yeah, the timing on the sequence there on the left-hand side by Diego and Pompeo was absolutely perfect. The Barbarians snuck in front of the Night Witch. They all tanked for that Graveyard a bit. Got the spell out early, but a lot of damage came in there for Azilius and Buffmac, not able to defend the way they'd like. Ooh.
Oh, and a late freeze. You hate to see it. That's a big opening now for Chivas Esports.
Oh, and look at that. Just soaking up that 8 elixir. Both of those Musketeers getting eaten alive by the Mega Knight. Graveyard comes in, and that is going to be very tough for Diego and Pompeo to defend.
723 on the right-hand side. Buffmac listening to something over on his camera. Very curious what's going on there.
Yeah, curious if he's maybe listening to his coach or... I don't... Maybe he just won the lottery. It seems like an odd time to be taking a phone call.
Honey, did you remember to pick up the milk on your way?
I need milk. I need it now. All right, 723 top right, 826 bottom left. Balloon Graveyard in. Going for the kill is Tribe. And you see Diego already shaking his head. Something is wrong defensively.
Defensive freeze comes in, but this should be enough. Yep, death damage will do it. Tribe Gaming with a clean 2-0 to open up their fall
season. You can see Pompeo and Diego sitting right next to each other. Obviously frustrated, but still giving a little bit of love to one another, and that's what you have to do in those frustrating moments and those frustrating losses. But they were just outmatched, clearly. You saw it. You saw the looks on Diego and Pompeo's faces numerous times throughout both of those games, and they just didn't have the answers they needed.
And again, you know, just to address this, you're seeing Buffmac pick up the phone mid-game. This is special just for our online version of Clash Royale League. Obviously, they'd have headphones on if we were in studio. They wouldn't be able to look at other devices, have coaching, but because with players throughout the world, some players on cam, some players unable to do it, you can't regulate it, so even playing field. No, there's no rule against any sort of coaching or second screens or stuff like that for this special version, this online version of CRL.
And look, honestly, man, I think it'd be harder to play with the phone in your hand. I really do, sure. If we're being honest here. And the other thing a lot of people are saying is his AirPods probably just died and he wasn't able to communicate with his teammate anymore. So that's neither here nor there because, honestly, this was a dominant 2v2 set by both those gentlemen, Buffmac and Azealis. Yes, Diego and Pompeo made it look a lot closer in game number 1, but again, it's those heads-up plays like the predictive lightning and knowing when to be aggressive on the right-hand side in that first game. And obviously, game 2 was really much more in favor of Tribe for the majority.
Yeah, and now Tribe goes into our second set with the sweep, of course. We saw that opening up. We saw SK Gaming come out with a big 2-0 sweep and some close wins as well. So second match, similar to our first match, the question now is, does Chivas have a King of the Hill win in them like we saw out of Dignitas in our last match?
Look, I mean, if you told me KotH was going to sweep SK and then pick up a game on Javi and take him the distance at the beginning of today, I would have been like, really? It's not that I don't have faith in him. It's just like, that's hard for anyone to do, anyone at all. So doing it against Tribe feels pretty similarly because you've got to take out Buffmac, TNT, and Jupiter King. And honestly, I don't wish that upon anyone, not even my worst enemy.
No, and it could be Buff or Azealis. Yeah. Obviously, you got to imagine it's TNT and Jupiter King. And TNT and Jupiter King, I think this is another one of those teams that, you know, it's hard to say because Jupiter went 4-0 in sets in the 1v1 during our spring split. But now, instead of having to beat just Jupiter in 1v1, you have to beat Jupiter and TNT, and then either Buff or Azealis in King of the Hill, assuming that they go with that sort of construction. So this is a nightmare of a team that's gotten even more frightening, I think, with King of the Hill being the second set.
So how's your guys' Fantasy Royale doing? Mine's doing pretty medium today, to be honest. If you had KotH, that is a massive, massive pickup. If you have KotH in RF, you should just walk away, maybe go buy a lottery ticket because you are well on your way to that 250,000 gold and, of course, those 100 gems. But now we get into King of the Hill. I'm wondering if Tribe just starts off with Jupiter King and goes, hey, man, why don't you just go out there and close this out for us? 1, 2, 3, end it. You don't ever lose anyway, and should be real nice.
I think they do. I think you lead with Jupiter King, and I think that maybe you wonder if Chivas tries to put Kevin out first because he's young and they want to give him the lower pressure spot, or if because they took that L, they say, hey, rookie, we have 3 seasoned veterans, top popular players in the world. Today's not your day. We're sending out Diego B, we're sending out Adrian Piedra, and we're sending out Pompey.
Yeah, I mean, so here we go. TNT is going to kick things off. Azealis in the middle spot, and Jupiter King as the closer. Kevin, as you said, going to lead things off, hoping that rookie can get his feet wet without too many nerves. Adrian in the middle, Diego B at the end. This is going to be an incredible, incredible King of the Hill set. I'm excited to see what Kevin can do.
Well, Kevin's been a part of the overall Chivas program for a long time, going back to 2019. He's played for them in a lot of the smaller leagues, whether it be or the semi-pro leagues, No Tilt League, in CCS. He was on the roster for the No Tilt League Special Edition before our spring split. So he's been a part of Chivas for a long time. Was rumored to be part of their team for CRL last split, and now finally gets his shot. Talented young guy, but up against one of the best in all of CRL and TNT.
Yeah, and really looking at probably one of my favorite mirror matchups in the game right now. It's going to be a mortar, a mirror matchup with most likely all the exact same cards as that has been the dominant mortar archetype in this meta.
I mean, this honestly might be the most popular mirror matchup in the game right now. I'd love to see what the stats are. Which mirror is happening the most? This one. I mean, I'm running into it on ladder. It's the most played deck in Grand Challenges right now. This is everywhere, and you understand why. It's fun and gives a lot of chances to outplay bad
Yes,
matchups.
Absolutely. It really does. The aggression that you can apply with such a cheap amount of elixir really, really helps you against those beatdown decks that sometimes Mortar Bait will struggle with.
Decent fireball value there for Kevin. Getting both the Musketeer and popping the Skeleton Barrel early, so solid defensive opening for the rookie.
So TNT just in a slight lead right now, playing this basically perfect. As you said, the rookie taking just a little bit of damage, but not a lot.
And happy to eat a little bit there on the right-hand side. Does he pick up the opponent's mortar? And there you go. Knight perfectly timed to distract Kevin's mortar and log on that right-hand side. So TNT with a good chance to control the game early.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, you called it early because it is just kind of second nature when you are playing a mortar mirror matchup. But one of the biggest things you guys can do at home, you less experienced guys, is really, really protect your mortar on that first shot when you got 2 mortars on the board.
And log to the right, so a swarm on the left. Absolute overload from TNT, and now trying to spread Kevin thin as the mortar goes to the right hand.
Yeah, and so he's going to be able to clean all that up pretty easily on the left-hand side. You see right there, Spear Goblin's going to come in and do most all the work for him. Going to maybe take just a hair of damage there. Nope, does not. Beautiful Skeleton Barrel.
Log in response on one side, log in response on the other. As we go into sudden death overtime, it is the South Korean with the slight lead, 20-46 to 28-21.
And you see, there it is once again. TNT doing the correct thing to tank for that mortar, using the Spear Goblins, knowing they're going to split, going to keep them on the board, and it preserves the HP of your mortar just that much longer, and that's really what you need to do.
And good value there with the log on the right-hand side, getting the Skeleton Barrel and that split from the Goblin gang.
So Knight up.
Might we see a fireball here on the left? You have not seen fireball out of TNT yet. There we go. Clears off the Musketeer, but the mortar does not get a shot.
Yeah, it was
TNT ahead on Elixir.
Kevin looking for that fireball to come down, responds with one of his own. Really, really nicely played. A great last second Goblin gang there. Maybe actually a half second late. I think both of those could have survived. And mortar not going to connect.
Musketeer for the pickup. Final minute 15.
And really at a stalemate here, as you can see, 1974, the number on both towers until that fireball comes in. So now will Kevin be able to keep the fireball off his tower by creating enough pressure somewhere else, or defending for not a lot of value?
And again, we'll see the control of the mortar better. Fireball in on the right-hand side. Fireball to try to predict the defense on the left maybe, but the log takes care of business instead.
Yeah, but Kevin's actually starting to find himself falling behind right now. As you can see, 2 mortars on the board, a second Knight down. Should tank those shots for the mortar on the right-hand side, and that's why that Musketeer has to come in and assist.
Log one more time, fireball into the right, 13-01.
Oh my gosh.
Fireball gives the lead back to Kevin.
12:38, Musketeer not going to connect. Last second Goblin gang in. Another Skeleton Barrel down, and you know that TNT's going to try to log this so he can get more damage on the right-hand side.
Fireball in for Kevin, fireball in the opposite direction. Mortar not going to connect for TNT.
No, sir.
Kevin currently ahead. Log trying to steal this one away. Will it do it? 9:47. Oh my word.
What happened?
Kevin can't believe it.
What just happened? Too much committed on the right, not paying attention to the left, 9 HP, and that is the moment where you gotta just pat the rookie on the head and go, look, man, it's day one, it's okay. Wow.
Man, the confidence, the wherewithal, and the knowledge of TNT to see that Goblin gang on the left and not fall for it. Just go, look, I can play low spears, stop all of that damage, and buy myself room to get the log on tower to get the win. Brilliant, brilliant play by the seasoned veteran.
I mean, that's what it's all about. When you're a veteran, you can really, really keep your wits about you, and recognizing the cheapest, most efficient way to get damage on that right-hand tower and defend the left is exactly what TNT did in that moment. 9 HP is literally any interaction in the game. A Goblin Spear, a stab, a strong gust of wind, whatever it might be. That has got to be so frustrating for Kevin.
So here we are, the final 10 seconds, and you see on the right-hand side, fireball as it goes in. Kevin has the lead at the moment and maybe just a bit overconfident here. But of course, the log's out of cycle, not enough for the fireball. And there you go, not biting on it as TNT steals this one. Somehow, 9 HP isn't the closest win of the day because of that 6 HP game in 2v2. Today we've seen 14, 9, and 6. This is a crazy day of Clash Royale.
Yeah, and you know, I gotta say the Spear Goblin play from TNT throughout that game was really, it was just immaculate. The way he was splitting them, pulling out the mortar shots, knowing when to play them defensively against something like a Knight +3 Goblins early on, and then a high Skeleton Barrel to still get some damage on the tower, create an offensive presence. It's small things like this that, you know, when you're in a mirror matchup, it becomes these really small increments of difference in micro interaction that you just can't keep up with. 9 HP is the testament to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big one. And you got to feel for Kevin because it felt like he was getting controlled for the whole first half of the game, and he flipped the script. He took firm control of that game as we went into sudden death overtime, and then just by a hair, TNT takes it back and now stays on the board. So, you know, a rough, rude welcome given by TNT to Kevin in CRL.
So now we're going to go back to the veterans. It's going to be TNT, Azili, since Jupiter King is still alive for Tribe Gaming, and then back to two names that you and I have said for year after year after season, and that's Adrian Piedra and then Diego B to hold on to the match for Chivas.
Yeah, two very talented players, two players who have been around for a long time. Adrian just coming off of a great performance in the No Tilt World Championship, making it very, very, very far in the tournament. Adrian's been good lately. Diego certainly fired up now with this new program, with his new team in Chivas, but I don't envy anyone who has to try to beat TNT, Azili's, and Jupiter King.
Yeah, I don't either. So here we go. TNT up against Adrian Piedra, a guy who, honestly, in the first season we ever saw him, he was one of the top tier head-to-head players, and since then he's struggled a little bit to continue to find his footing.
Yeah, I mean, he played primarily in the 1v1 set in that first season, and then we switched to a version where 1v1 was no longer the first set, and I think he benefits from the longer sets overall, and you saw that in the No Tilt World Championship, you know, with the number of 1v1s, BO3s and BO5s he had to win to go as far as he did. I think that he's a better long set player than he is a King of the Hill player, but certainly a long-time talented veteran and a very popular one as well.
And you know, the other thing about a guy like Adrian Piedra, who not only do you and I love, but all of our casting counterparts, whether it's Koji and Mano or Deco and Bruno, he's the type of guy you want on your squad for chemistry purposes. He's just a good dude, and he's got a great energy about him.
Fireball in on the flying machine on the left-hand side. Recruit doing a lot of damage for TNT here as we pass the first minute. 18-12 remaining on Adrian's left tower.
So Adrian Piedra kind of feels similar to Sergio Ramos in the sense of two guys who a lot of people look at maybe even on their Rushmore of Clash Royale competitors, but just not able to put the success they've had in the past and translate it into the 2019 and 2020 seasons.
Yeah, well, we'll see if this positive offseason can reinvigorate and maybe course correct for Adrian Piedra. One thing about, I love seeing Adrian on face cam again, but not seeing the full body. We don't get to see him do the hand
yes,
that he does.
Yeah, the little like finger flick thing.
Yeah.
So here we go. Adrian going offensive with that Ram Rider.
Bar barrel enough to clean that one up with the fireball. You see a little nod there from Adrian Piedra. Mega Knight cycle to the left-hand side for the Chivas player.
Adrian Piedra up a little bit of elixir now, and as you said, a little bit of an acknowledgement coming from him. Maybe we're going to see something fancy here as we get these units crossing the river. Nice heads-up fireball.
Skeleton. Yeah, the Skeleton Dragons would have taken care of business, but smart fireball there to keep the flying machine on the board, and now that demands more attention out of TNT.
Yeah, Flying Machine, very, very frustrating card to get to if you don't have the fireball, but obviously Adrian does, and he's got a great response to the Hogs with his Mega Knight as well, so TNT has got his work cut out for him in this matchup.
Yeah, a good early lead so far for the South Korean, but as time goes on with two strong counters and the Ram Rider being so hard to stop, I feel like Adrian is going to have a good shot as we go deeper into this game.
I think what you just saw there is kind of indicative of what you're talking about, Rich, is we're getting deeper into double and triple elixir time. We're seeing that Adrian's going to be able to start to overwhelm TNT a bit because of the lack of single target DPS on TNT's end if you're not counting the 6-man, because the 6-man gets kind of replaced, or I guess kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Negated by the Mega Knight.
Sure. Bar Barrel there to clear off some shields. A good heal spirit, though, to keep that support at the bridge, and Fireball gets a little extra value there on the right-hand side for TNT.
Yeah, so a really, really interesting deck here from TNT. You know, and not interesting because we haven't seen it, but interesting in the matchup. How is he going to be able to create this dual lane presence when those Skeleton Dragons being cycled in the back plus the Mega Knight do so much splash?
Yeah, and you see they're getting split enough that he's not able to fireball them off, so now trying to figure out some other way to deal with them. And the Flying Machine, this little combo, the Flying Machine behind, but that's again going to be a 6 elixir for 4 with the Fireball taking out the Flying Machine and 1 Skeleton.
Wow, and just a little bit of a slip-up on both sides there for Adrian, allowing shots in on the right from the Recruits and the left from the Musketeer, evening things up by quite a bit.
And a couple Hogs now from the left-hand side, 12,
there it is again!
Down. Wow. Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Absolute insanity here from TNT.
That is just a devastating blow to come in. Adrian now not able to spend more elixir on defense because he needs to get a push on the right. 152 remains. Where's the Fireball? It's coming in soon. No, it's not. Hog's going to seal the deal.
Adrian trying to open up enough room to steal the right-hand side. Can't do it. And King of the Hill, it just seems like it's the hot hand set right now. TNT now 2-0.
Man, the adjustments that TNT are making in the final 30 seconds to the minute of gameplay have just been mesmerizing, intoxicating, and devastating to his opponents. Adrian Piedra looked like he had that in the bag for such a long time. The Mega Knight for the Hogs, the Fireball for anything else, the splash damage that he had in the barrel there, the Dragons to help with the 6-man, but TNT just outplays him.
He's just insanely good at Clash Royale, and this is part of what makes this team so scary. If you talk about overall career win rate in Clash Royale League, all 4 players for this team are in the top 10. Jupiter King has the #1 win rate amongst active players at 67%. TNT at 64%. Those are the #1 and #2 best win rate players. Azealis are just a couple behind them in 5th place at 62. It's insane how good this team is.
Yeah, I mean, it really is an all-star lineup. Every single guy is so talented at what they do, and honestly, they're interchangeable to other positions. So there it is, TNT 2 up, 2 down, 2 very, very close games. You know, hats off to Kevin and Adrian, but now it all lies on Diego B's shoulders to help Chivas limp into the 3rd and final set.
And this is going to be a challenging one for Diego because, again, forget having to beat TNT, Azealis, and of course Jupiter King on top of that, which is so hard. Diego's been a 50-50 player in King of the Hill. 1 King of the Hill sweep in his career. So you're putting him in a place where you know that Diego is going to consistently get you 1 win in King of the Hill. He'll get you that for sure. But asking 3 is just a tall order and not really what you bring him into the team for. You bring him in for 2v2 and 1 or 2 King of the Hill wins. A sweep, big in this position.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you and I are fans of Diego B, betting on him to sweep Tribe Gaming in this moment is a bad bet to take, honestly. Yeah, maybe you put down $10 and you win $1,000, but I'm not taking that bet 9 times out of 10. I'm really not. If Diego B proves us wrong, I'm happy to be wrong in this situation. Again, I love Diego B and I love when he's playing well, but it just seems impossible at this moment.
Well, especially with how well TNT is playing, a guy we didn't see much in the spring split because of how dominant his teammates were. We saw him only in 1 set in playoffs where he won his 1v1 set and 1 King of the Hill game because the rest of the team carried regular season. People forget just how good TNT is. Take Jupiter King with his 12 total games in CRL out of it. TNT has the best win rate in CRL West out of any active player.
Yeah, and that's a fascinating thing you bring up because sometimes that can really hurt a guy if he doesn't get to play all season long. It hurts his ego, it hurts his confidence, and then when he gets out there, he's just foaming at the mouth so much to make great plays, he makes mistakes. But TNT really, really kind of took that and threw it out the window when we saw him come out in playoffs.
Diego B going with minor wall breakers, looking for a deck that does have some outplay ability, and NATO bomb tower to clean that up for TNT.
That has got to be a frustrating start for Diego B. NATO bomb tower barrel, all things that are going to make his life a little bit more difficult, a lot of bit more difficult.
Yeah, a lot of bit more difficult, I think, is the right way to put it there, Andrew. Knight cycled to the left-hand side to meet the Knight of Diego B. And again, a lot of cards here that TNT, as you can see, well, you can use creatively to make some good defenses as well. Musketeer does not connect. Miner, though, will get a decent amount of chip here as the first minute passes away.
Yeah, Miner just living, hanging out on that tower, setting up camp, and TNT sitting here thinking about how and when he wants to go on offense. And honestly, for TNT, it's just about survival and single elixir. That's really all he needs to do.
Yeah, once we get later, graveyards will start flying down, and should be easy pickings for him at that stage. Although this is a significant amount of chip early on, Andrew. 1766, and note there's no King Tower activation yet with that NATO because it's been forced to be used elsewhere.
Yeah, you know, and with this deck, this Minor Wall Breakers deck, that amount of damage coming in early really can be devastating. So you see right here, TNT going to go all out, kind of sell out on offense, and I don't actually think that's the correct decision to make in this moment. Yeah, he's going to get a little bit of chip damage in there, but I don't think elixir-wise that's what he wants to do because now he's really, really opened up the door to easy dual lane pressure for Diego B.
But then look at the brilliant correction there. Picks up the Miner with the Knight, and now we're back to even. TNT is playing a gem here.
Yeah, he really, really is, and it's going to be a difficult task for Diego to figure out how to keep up this dual lane pressure and not give counter pushes for that graveyard.
And you see Diego certainly not happy with what's happening so far. Little grab of the head, and now a graveyard push with a healthy baby dragon on the left, and what a NATO there to clean up the skeletons.
I love that NATO. It's so great. Gets that much more damage in on the tower. The Knight is walking around like he can't see a thing, and just like that, TNT really commanding this game.
The poison was unnecessary at that point, right? You didn't need to poison to get that off. NATO does the same job. What you care about is the skeletons, not the tower damage there. Brilliant play here.
Yeah, now he goes for the poison. There it is. Yep, he sees the Musketeer in range on the tower. Going to help with the skeletons if they are dropped to help clean up the graveyard. And that Musketeer is not going to walk past that Princess.
Miner goes low to the outside this time, and now we'll get the King Tower activation.
TNT.
You have to do it at some point.
Yeah, I was just going to say TNT being very, very patient about it. And Diego, you know, doing the correct thing and putting his Miner in the correct place for almost the entirety of the game.
Good high bomb tower here from Diego. If he can get that baby dragon out, which I don't know if he can. Knight to distract here, but with the baby dragon taking graveyard in, things getting more and more dire for Chivas Esports.
Yeah, there's the poison coming in. NATO not going to be necessary because that baby dragon didn't have enough life to get that splash damage in, so he goes for the more effective option.
Wall breakers do not connect. We are 385 away from our first 5-game straight sweep of the season. TNT with 55 seconds left to work.
Yeah, this is brutal for Chivas. Chivas really, really needing to pick up this game, but there's just no way it's going to happen. 385 remaining. Poison is in. Skeletons are piling up, and that is going to do it.
And a cheeky NATO to pull off the Knight, and TNT. You didn't get to see him last season. Well, here you go. You get 3 looks. King of the Hill sweep. And that is a clean 5-0 for a team that many people have picked as their #1 for this Western split.
And honestly, if they didn't do the same thing for the entirety of last season, I would be a little bit more impressed. But honestly, I expect this out of Tribe right now. I expect them to play this well, that clean of play in head-to-head and in 2v2. And look, Chivas shouldn't be ashamed of what they did today. They put on a really, really great match. They put up a really great fight. But as you saw in those first couple games with TNT, it was just the difference of a couple interactions. They need to correct those moving forward. I know it's so hard to do because it's literally like two things, but those two things cost you those King of the Hill games.
When you think about collectively 15 HP separating Chivas from 2 wins, 6 in one 2v2 game and 9 in a King of the Hill game, just that slight difference, they could have won the 2v2 if they'd won that game. And then King of the Hill, if Kevin gets TNT off the board, you get that first win out of the rookie. Maybe he gets a second. So just that slim margin being the difference between potentially going all the way through and maybe even winning this match overall, or at least extending it to a pretty dangerous position for Tribe Gaming versus a 5-0 sweep. It's what Clash Royale's all about.
Yeah, and you know, needing to take a head-to-head set off of Tribe is an understatement for the other teams in the league. They need it to happen. It's only happened in the playoffs. It's never happened in the regular season. It's not happening so far this season in this first match of the day. It needs to happen so other squads can look at what that person did and learn from it. Because right now, the only thing you're learning from Tribe is how to lose to them.
Yeah, well, they're pretty darn good. They picked up the best free agent. I mean, picking up Sean Kim as the coach for Tribe Gaming, brilliant move by Chief Pat and the entire team over there at Tribe. They wanted to get a better into the CRL Asian market, and they sniffed the wins that TNT would be out there, bringing in Jupiter King on top of that, and then landing the most sought-after free agent of the offseason. It was the Buff Mac Olympics. It was, where am I taking my talents to South Beach? No, taking them down to Texas with Tribe Gaming. And just a monster of a team they've put together.
Yeah, and you know, again, my compliments to Sean and Chief Pat for what they did. The team that Sean built and kind of Pat's perseverance and making sure that his team stayed at the top. I actually saw him here in Twitch watching and chatting, and I'm sure he's incredibly proud of what he's done with his squad over the last 2 seasons. There's no way not to be. And honestly, I think the only disappointing thing for them is that they don't have a title. And so this is the year, this is the season for Tribe to do it. You saw what happened when they went perfect and they dropped 1 game, 1 match, and that was the end of their season. Now they want redemption, and this is a great way to start.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and what I like about this win isn't just the 5-0 dominance for Tribe, but it's getting by in those clutch moments, the 2v2 clutch, the King of the Hill clutch for TNT. Those clutch moments, those mean more to me than 5 straight dominating games would mean.
Yeah, so now a huge matchup coming up with the only 2 squads that are doing back-to-back match days. It's going to be Pain and Misfits, who both dropped their first match, looking to bounce back. Neither of them want to start their season 0-2. We will be back in 5 minutes with Pain and Misfits.
One more to go today, and does anybody here have the breath left, the heart left, the ability to stay in this one at this point? It has been a collection of heart-stopping moments. Andrew, can we get any more of these kind of things today from Pain and Misfits?
I'll be honest, man, I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't know if my ticker can handle it. I've been screaming, I've been sweating, I've been jumping around. I'm so ready for this last match because it feels more important than any other match we've had so far. Not because teams want to go out there and prove themselves, but because no one wants to start week 1 0-2. And both of these squads have a good amount of rookies on them. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and I was saying personally, I think this is more important for Pain Gaming to win because they're a squad of 4 rookies, whereas with Misfits, they have the experience to know how to bounce back from a rough weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big difference here. And, you know, if you did look on Twitter for the Pain Gaming players, a lot of them talked about the nerves they experienced yesterday, that they were just shaking, like a lot of adrenaline. And that's true. You get your first one out. The big question now is, now that they've experienced it, will they be more calm and focused today, having gotten that out of the way? Or is there more pressure because that first one resulted in a loss?
I feel like it might be the latter, honestly. You'd hope that about getting their feet wet, you know, dipping in that pool, they're feeling a little more confident today, but they also started off with a rough start. One of the teams getting swept, the other team almost getting swept by IMJP and the KotH, respectively. And also, just because you said Twitter, and I know that Esports Royale is on Twitter and you should follow them, Tribe Gaming just put up one of the coldest-blooded memes I've ever seen for Chivas, and if you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out. All right, here we go. Misfits and Pain Gaming.
Here we go. Misfits with 2 new rookies, 2 highly touted rookies in Schwarzen, the German player, and Bob the Rock out of the Netherlands. The 2v2 duo stumbled yesterday, and then 2 highly touted veterans in Air Surfer and Wings, who were not quite able to overcome the deficit. We'll see if Bob and Schwarzen can nail things down today with what I have to say is going to be an easier 2v2 matchup than they were faced with on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine so. You know, Kuchiku and Benny, who have been together for so long, Bob the Rock and Schwarzen had a good start, but just not able to finish things off. On the other side of it, Pain Gaming, all rookies here with some phenomenal hair. Lucas, Sweep, Vitor75, and Wallace. Again, these guys put together a pretty good showing to start things off yesterday, but again, just not able to close things out and lock things down. You know, they ran into Lapacati and basically just the KotH.
Yeah, that was a pretty rough outing for them, and no changes on either side when it comes to the 2v2 set. Bob and Schwarzen coming out, banning Fisherman for Misfits. Sweep and Wallace back at it again for Pain Gaming with a giant skeleton ban. So while one of the biggest control cards in 2v2 is off the board, it does leave Tornado on the board for this set.
So here we go. Lucas giving us a little bit of heart eyes there from the Skelly in real life. That's cool.
So here you go. Sweep on the top right-hand side with Wallace there as his partner for Pain Gaming, Bob the Rock, and Schwarzen. And one of the challenges here, we have so many 2v2 duos that are playing in the same house, at least in the same country, but certainly in the same house throughout the world for Clash Royale League this season. Different for both of these. Not only do you have rookies for both pair, but rookies for both pair who are playing in different houses in different countries and not communicating in a shared first language.
Yeah, you know, it's really, really difficult when you add or compound all those things together to be at the same level as a duo that is in the same house, like the ones in Team Queso, the ones on SK, the ones in Space Station Gaming. Well, usually on Space Station Gaming, I should say.
Yeah, the fact that Lapo and RF are that good together is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it really is. There you go, defensive freeze out early here from Sweep and Wallace. Not ideal to have to burn it this early on because that Ram Rider should still connect very, very healthy in spite of all the defense that came down.
Giving up a lot of damage and still ending up significantly behind on Elixir is Pain Gaming. So they went for the big damage early, and they're paying for it on the back.
And this is where Misfits needs to really recognize their Elixir advantage, maybe get a Mega Knight down in the back. There we go. P.E.K.K.A in the back instead. That's exactly what I'm talking about. A big, big downhill push needs to come in to punish the overspend by Sweep and Wallace.
P.E.K.K.A with some roller skates on, courtesy of the Dark Prince. and a high graveyard to distract that whole crew as the Ram Rider tries to sneak its way through. And a huge Ram Rider connection, Andrew, and that NATO not going to quite do as much as they would hope. Sure, it will keep the damage off, but again, leaves Pain in a massive elixir hole.
And that is the only way to put it. We're talking double the elixir in the hand of Misfits on every push they've started. The fact that Pain has been able to get that much damage in on the right-hand tower and kind of stay, you know, I guess get that a bit in early on is the only reason they're still in this game. Wow, that was a hard sentence for me to say.
Here we go. P.E.K.K.A takes care of the Dark Prince. E-Wiz behind. And Dark Prince in response now from Misfits. They keep on setting that Ice Wiz down low. Lightning this time will take it off the board. Clean path for the Ram Rider get on tower here. This should be a good game. No, defensive freeze. Fireball doesn't get the Musketeer. So currently, Pain holding on here against Misfits.
Yeah, really feeling like they're just delaying the inevitable with the spell power in the hands of Misfits, but Misfits has to play defense first, and that Mega Knight has been a big problem when you talk about getting a tank across the river. Wow, they got a lot of damage in, though.
A lot of damage, but a King Tower activation as well, and now just some spell cycle coming out from Misfits. Lightning will do it. Game number 1 going to Bob the Rock and Schwarzen.
There you go, Bob the Rock and Schwarzen putting it together again really, really nicely here, kind of like they did yesterday in their first matchup, but now they have to close things out.
And that's the hard part, right, is making sure you get those 2 in a row. Bob and Schwarzen do even up their career record in 2v2 to a clean and even 2-2 with that win over Sweep and Wallace, who now fall to 1-3 as a pair.
Definitely a frustrating start for Sweep and Wallace. Like you said, 1-3 as a pair. They're, 4 matches in, really wanting to pick up that set to show everyone that this is the 2v2 duo that needs to be representing Pain Gaming. And right now, really, really struggling.
Well, you see the amount of damage they put in late in this game and how close they made this late in the game, and you have to wonder if the overextending early on was the death knell. Right? If they had maybe played a little bit slower early on in the game, that maybe they wouldn't have been caught quite so flat-footed and would have been in a better position to win this one.
Yeah, and they were also doing something kind of interesting in the sense of always playing in the same lane that their opponents were going in. I mean, a lot of the times that'll work in your favor if you're playing Graveyard as your win condition because you're looking for a big counter push to come across after defending and then drop the Graveyard. The problem is their opponents had so much splash damage, stuns with the E-Wiz and the P.E.K.K.A. So the P.E.K.K.A, the Mega Knight, and the E-Wiz there, they kept really making these bridge battles impossible to win. And the problem there was that I think they needed to change lanes. I think at some point, I don't know if they just couldn't do it because they did have expensive decks, but working into the same lane over and over was not going to happen.
Well, you find themselves with a defensive freeze early on and then not enough to actually capitalize on it, and the cards begin to fall, the domino effect, as you will, and Pain Gaming finds themselves in a hole here in the opening set. Sweep and Wallace looking to bounce back in game number 2. This is what you expected from Schwarzen as well, but specifically from Bob the Rock. You expected good, meticulous Clash Royale in 2v2 to be played. Longtime partner of St. Bellican, who's now going to be his opponent when they face Cream Royale Betis, although maybe not in the 2v2. Bob's a talented 2v2 guy with a really sharp mind, and the promise maybe paying off here in match number 2 for Misfits.
Yeah, and again, it really felt like Misfits was just playing the game that they wanted that entire 5 minutes, the entirety of that match, I should say. It wasn't an ideal situation for Pain to just keep going into it over and over. How many times did we see that Mega Knight come down right at the river and drop on top of 3 units that immediately extinguished Pain's push?
Yeah, it was definitely brutal, and that's one of those things too where sometimes a lack of experience and a mixture of nerves lowers your decision-making ability.
Yeah.
Right? There's things that you do when you're calm and make the right choices, where when you have pressure on and you feel nervous, that decision-making ability begins to dwindle and dip, where things that you normally would never do, you start doing and get caught maybe in a bad rhythm. So we'll see if they can correct the ship here in game number 2, Bob and Schwarzen with set point. Curious to see if Sweep and Wallace maybe play a little bit more slowly in this second game.
Yeah, I think that would be highly advised.
So far, holding back a bit more is the Brazilian squad.
We've seen very, very similar cards from both teams here. Looking like, probably looking like we might go to, oh, never mind. Heal Spirit coming in, changing things up just a hair. We RG now.
First minute away and only significant damage so far. A cycled poison on the left-hand side for Pain Gaming. Sweep, I believe, is the first American, or not American, sorry, Canadian. Oh, my bad there, Sweep. the first Canadian on Pain Gaming. In the past, it's been primarily Brazilians with a couple of Spaniards mixed in, but expanding their overall look this season with not just the Canadian, but also the Portuguese player in Vitor.
Wow, this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup here for Misfits, seeing that their opponents have the P.E.K.K.A., have the Log, have the EWIZ, have the Cage, and also, just for a little bit of cherry on top, the Ram Rider to slow that Royal Giant down.
Yeah, this will be interesting, and I guess the big question will be the single target DPS, but with all that to slow, stun, and block, I'm not sure that's a huge problem. And of course, big old Mama Beck.
So here we go, Mega Knight in the back, Ram Rider behind. These are some really daunting pushes, if you will, when they come down the lane when you're playing against them.
Musketeer just hanging out in the poison, and the Ice Wiz and Lumberjack run right into it. A pretty ill-conceived defense potentially here, but look at that. The Heal Spirit completely saves it. And now Bob and Schwarzen running downhill.
Yeah, an incredible, incredible recovery there by Misfits. Still not going to get a ton of damage out of this, and another Ram Rider coming their way. But at least that last sequence was done very nicely.
Well, here's what happened, Andrew, is that they recovered from it very well, but had to spend like crazy, and now you see a huge elixir advantage for Sweep and Wallace. So they did a good job staying alive for the moment, but as you saw, they were thirsting for elixir, and it was the second push behind that they couldn't hit.
I love this. Battle of the Rookies. Misfits takes game one. Sweep and Wallace bounce back in game number 2 for Pain Gaming, and this is just what these four need. A great set that goes the distance, that goes back and forth. Now it's going to be all about who actually walks away with the W.
And you can see a huge sigh there out of Schwarz and Bob as well. Both of them kind of recognizing the trap they got caught in with that first push. And there was just so much coming down. And you know, you have to sell out to keep your tower alive, but good recognition from Sweep and Wallace to know that their opponents were very, very low and put the pressure on in that moment.
I mean, that was just the 100% correct thing to do, and you hit the nail right on the head when you said that Schwarzen and Bob the Rock, I mean, they spent like they had an Amex black card. They just went all out, and then they realized, oh man, I got to pay those bills in just a minute. Schwarzen, Bob the Rock, really, really nice start, but just a bit of an overcommitment, and really, really nice capitalization on that by Sweep and Wallace.
So yeah, this is the end. It's not the sequence beforehand. That's the finishing sequence. You see the tower go down, but again, it was the one before that, and that's how the game is played sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. You play one push just for the next push. So very, very well played by Pain Gaming. You know, I don't know how much we learn about these teams from this match, right? This is going to be, because it's a lot of rookies, a lot of young players. I think we'll learn a lot more from the King of the Hill than we will from this 2v2. The big test for these 2v2 squads is going to be when they come out next weekend against another veteran pair.
Yes, and I really, truly believe the words that you're saying. I honestly think that this weekend is really just about getting those rookies any semblance of what it's like to compete at this level, and hopefully some confidence. That's it. Let them recognize what it's like to be here at the top 1%, and give them the confidence to move forward and make the correct decisions in matches that they might find themselves behind.
And this is a big one for Pain because they do have a talented roster in King of the Hill, but you're up against two King of the Hill greats in Air Surfer and Wings. So I think that this 2v2 set is more important for Pain Gaming than it is for Misfits. Let's go ahead into the third and deciding game in this opening set. Guess we'll go into it here in just a moment. There we go.
People just want to see us smile for a second.
I do like staring into the camera.
All right, here we go. Game in the hand of each squad. Sweep and Wallace, top of your screen. Bob the Rock Schwarzen at the bottom.
I am very curious about the pressure on the Pain side. I don't think that Air Surfer and Wings have a whole lot of nervousness as they sit back and watch this, but Lucas, who is the star head-to-head player for Pain Gaming, talked yesterday about the nerves that he had in their first matchup, and you got to think of, again, if he feels like he's facing his team going down 0-2, can that star rookie signing come in clutch if he doesn't have that cushion?
Yeah, and that's a really, really tough position to be in as a rookie, you know, so much weight on your shoulders and going into things behind, kind of being a last-ditch effort or the last hope for your squad. It really, really makes that pressure just rise exponentially.
Archer's high, and this will be a little bit of damage for Pain Gaming to open up. So a nice bit of a lead here, 1993 on the right-hand side as we pass the first 90 seconds of the match.
Yeah, just kind of poking and prodding, feeling each other out. Obviously, Pain, Sweep, and Wallace off to a decent lead with that spell value coming in and a little bit of a connection.
Sweep's personal best on ladder, 84-35, 90th. His best finish overall, his partner Wallace, 8,016. Best score in our ranking system.
So Mega Knight down once again. Mega Knight going to be a card that we're going to see a ton of in 2v2 for a while.
And good fireball value there on the right-hand side for Schwarzen, taking out the archers and putting that E-Wiz on his last legs. 22-18 remains as we get 30 seconds away from sudden death overtime. Pain currently in the lead by a few hundred HP.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see the Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A come back into the 2v2 meta just strictly because of the Royal recruits and the utility they provide to things like the Royal Giant. I love to watch the 2v2 meta kind of develop and evolve as the season moves forward.
Well, Royal Giant decks are certainly popular right now. Mega Knight's everywhere, and P.E.K.K.A's a good counter for Mega Knight, so you understand why you're seeing this look from both sides.
So big boy's gonna leap right on top of each other, throwing those clubs around. Damage coming in though, Splash getting on that bottom right tower for Misfits from that Mega Knight.
Sudden death overtime in, and so far it's been so difficult for Bob and Schwarzen to play defense. They haven't had a chance to mount any significant offense. I think the big deal for them is going to be finding some spell value here in these bridge battles and opening up some sort of opportunity.
You know, and this is kind of what I feel like they got caught in before, which is just playing a game that they don't want to. They're in this right-hand side. They're playing towards their weaker tower over and over and over. And there you see a Musketeer cycle to the left to just try and shift this just a little bit towards the favorable side for them.
And now Ram Rider set up that direction as well, putting the Musketeer, getting right in front just in time.
Yeah, Ram Rider finally coming out here for Misfits. First time we've seen their win condition, but it might be too little, too late. Lightning coming down bottom right.
Yeah, that's a big-time lightning. And look at this, Lumberjack on the left-hand side requires a double spell drop, and looks like Pain Gaming firmly in control with 45 seconds left.
Yeah, that 4 elixir spent on the left-hand side on your very, very strong tower. I don't think those 2 units would have brought that tower down to even close to the right-hand side. Maybe trying to prevent the dual lane pressure, but just a rough spot to be in, and Sweep and Wallace know it.
Big win here for Pain Gaming in the opening set, and this really helps take the pressure off of Lucas and Vitor in that King of the Hill.
100%. And Sweep, you can see the smile on his face, the breath of relief, knowing that he did his job today. And I know that seems very simple when you say it out loud, but honestly, it's not that easy to do here at CRL. And as a rookie, getting that set win is massive for his confidence moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely huge. So congratulations to those boys. Bob and Schwarzen falling now to 0-2 in sets, 2-4 overall in 2v2 games. It's the beginning of a long season, and you do have two veterans behind you, but you realize that the likelihood of them pulling Air Surfer or Wings into 2v2 is slim to none.
Yes.
It would be in a break glass in case of emergency move. These guys have to figure out the math to win these 2v2s if they're going to play the roles on this team that they're meant to
And we
play.
see right here the double drop, which you and I kind of highlighted. You get a snowball and log coming in immediately on a tower that's essentially 100% healthy. Maybe instead 2 more of that elixir, or all 4 of it, could have been committed to the right-hand side, as you see this push just clearly dying on the Vine. Ram Rider already gone, Hunter grasping at strings, and then of course those Skeleton Dragons come in and really basically do nothing. So really, really tough moment there for Misfits, but Payne, Sweep, and Wallace, they just did what they were supposed to in that matchup. Just keep going down that right-hand side, let your opponents make mistakes, get the dual lane pressure up when you could, and Bob the Rock and Schwarzen just could not keep up.
So now we head into King of the Hill, and you know that Air Surfer and Wings are coming out for Misfits and King of the Hill. Most likely Schwarzen as the third piece of that. Do you send the rookie out first again? I don't remember if that's what they did last week. I think they did something different, or yesterday.
So yesterday what happened was that we got, for Payne Gaming, we got Vitor, Wallace, and Lucas coming out in that order. And then on the other side of it, we got Wings, Schwarzen, and Air Surfer in that order. So I'm curious to see if they'll change that up a bit. I wonder if one of the guys that had a little bit more success today moves up in the lineup for Payne, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine that we'll see anything other than Wings and Air Surfer in there, and we're definitely going to see Vitor and Lucas in. So it's a question of which 2v2 player gets put in my opinion. So we'll see, of course, which direction they go in. But I do feel pretty good right now for Payne Gaming. Vitor and Lucas, 2 very talented young players. Again, Vitor out of Portugal really helped the Portuguese team exceed expectations in No Tilt Worlds back in March. A big part of that squad's, I believe, number 8 finish overall, or tied for 8 finish overall in that World Cup competition. And then Lucas, a very, very talented, we mentioned this yesterday, top tier, one of the 3 best 2.6 players in the world right now. With a little bit of cushion right here, I feel like this is Payne Gaming's match to lose.
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask you that, and we're going to get into the first match of King of the Hill right now. It's going to be Bob the Rock going up against Vitor. Now, we felt personally that the 2v2 set was kind of a must-win for Payne Gaming because of confidence, because of all these other things. Don't you feel like Misfits do have the advantage, however, in this set?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a lot of ways they do have the advantage here, but I don't think it's a crazy huge advantage, right? You have Wings, who's phenomenal. You have Air Surfer, who's phenomenal. But anybody who underestimates Vitor and Lucas isn't paying attention to Clash Royale, and I really believe they have a good chance here. I don't know. I'd say maybe this is. Some people might say it's much bigger. I would say this is maybe a 55-45, at most 60-40 advantage for Misfits.
Okay, all right. So a lot of faith here from you coming to these rookies. So it's going to look like a straight mirror matchup here from Vitor and Bob the Rock. And we saw a mirror matchup with Mortar earlier. And the big deciding factor, it felt like, were those small micro interactions where you would see TNT just take a 1 elixir lead, or a better cycle, or move his cycle forward in a better manner than his opponent. What will it be in this match between Bob the Rock and Vitor?
Yeah, I am curious. I don't say I'm totally shocked. I am a little surprised, though, that Bob is the rookie they choose to send out today in King of the Hill over Schwarzen. You know, you never know what's happening in practice, who's feeling better on a given day, who they feel like matches up better against the other side, and you have to imagine that Adam and Dippets are having a lot of pretty deep conversations on the Misfits side about every single individual matchup they expect.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that it does speak to, though, is their confidence in Bob the Rock. After having a rough 2v2 set, they still want him to come out first here in King of the Hill. And right now, he has just taken the lead.
Bob's personal best on ladder, 81-18, with a number 4 best finish. Higher tier ladder player than Vitor, which is a 7.8k player, but of course, if you didn't already see Vitor in the No Tilt Worlds or follow him in his championship run in the Orange Crown League with the Titans, it was that No Tilt World Championship, making the final stage, making the top 8 in this year's singles solo World Championship for Clash Royale. Won a lot of fans over there, and has been doing a lot to help put Portugal on the map in Clash Royale.
So Bob the Rock going aggressive here with his Royal Hogs right after using a high heal spirit to negate his opponents, keep the heal off the Royal Hogs that came in, and turn all that around into some offense to give him a pretty healthy lead here as we're about to get into some overtime.
Musketeer cycles to the right-hand side. Going to go ahead and eat those shots from the Muskie. On the left is Vitor. And Skeleton's bar putt combination will take care of those pigs most of the way through. And you see not able to get anywhere as soon as that bar putt pops. A whole pile of yellow held fellas jump on out.
So 14-38 is a commanding lead when you look at how much time has passed in this game and how little Vitor has done offensively.
A lot on the board right now, though, but the bar butt Skeletons combination has been holding on very, very nicely for Bob so far. The question is, can Vitor get something in front of that Musketeer? Not going to happen, and now pigs go to the right hand
I mean, what's
lane.
so incredible about what we're seeing over and over from Bob the Rock specifically, and I guess we are seeing a good amount of it from Vitor, is the amount of utility they're getting out of these Skeletons, knowing that their opponent literally has 0 splash damage other than their log and fireball. Those Skeletons are paying dividends for 1 elixir.
Good heal spirit out of, or good Barbara out of Bob the Rock to control that heal spirit on the left-hand side. Final minute, and it's feeling more and more like this is out of Vitor's grasp. And this heal spirit does get all the way in.
Yeah, that's what?
For Bob.
6 barbs on the side of the map here for Bob the Rock. Vitor still goes back on offense because he has so much splash to clean things up. Nice fireball.
And now 1 pig does escape. Yeah, fireball goes high, but 1 pig does escape, and now the gap's starting to close, and it is Vitor putting the pressure on as opposed to his opponent. Fireball down, but fireball in the opposite direction misses a skeleton dragon, and that might be the game.
If he was able to hit either the skeleton dragon or the barbarians, that would have been a great fireball, but otherwise it feels a little bit wasted. Now behind in the spell cycle race, down in time, has to go on offense. You can imagine that this is a basically impossible game for Bob the Rock to lose. He's going to throw his fireball here in the next 2 seconds. There it is.
There you go, Bob taking game number 1, redemption in King of the Hill for the Dutch.
Yeah, Bob the Rock picking up a big, big win. Yes, it's only a game win, but obviously feels much more impactful than a game win in a different set, taking down his first opponent in King of the Hill. Next up for Pain Gaming, who will it be? And what do they think about what they just saw from Bob the Rock?
I mean, Bob played that very nicely, was in control, opened the door a bit for Vitor, and so there's might be some nervousness there that he did let Vitor sneak in there at the end and make things probably much closer than they should have been, given the lead that he had. But Bob's come out and done his job at this point, right? You didn't get the win in 2v2, some confidence building with the win here in King of the Hill, and setting up a much easier task for Wings and Air Surfer than they had before, getting one of the 2 more dangerous players off the board for Pain.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been so impressive when we see these mirror matchups, yes, Bob the Rock took the early lead and he ended up walking away with the W, but the amount of catch-up that Vitor had to do to make the game as close as it was is always really impressive to see in mirror matchups, because you see the on-the-fly adjustments that are being made from both sides of the board, and honestly, I think it was just Bob the Rock being a little bit more efficient and effective with his spells.
And you see that fireball missing 1 skeleton dragon, and if it gets a second one, you can set up something in front of those skeleton dragons and keep the pressure on. Instead, losing by just a couple hundred HP here is Vitor, 200 right on the dot. And so now he has to go back and start 0-2 on his overall CRL campaign and think about maybe some slight adjustments he can make next time around when he comes out next weekend.
Yeah, and you know, I think next weekend is going to be so interesting for these squads, because obviously yesterday didn't go well for either of them, and now today it's been very back and forth, but it again has been rookies playing the whole time. It's not that I don't think rookies are great at the game, and it's not that I don't think they don't belong in CRL. It's just that they're rookies. It's the same thing in any sport. They're still figuring it out. They're still building what they need to set up their legacy moving forward. And, you know, Bob the Rock is off to a nice start. Wallace is going to be up next here for Pain Gaming.
Game number 2 starting off. Wallace, the Brazilian for Pain Gaming. One of the 2 Brazilians on the squad after going full Brazil in our last season, or our last split, changing things up here with this younger countryman. Played a lot of semi-pro with Olimpo squad. The 8K player, now here finally in Clash Royale League.
I already like what I'm seeing here from Bob the Rock. We got Zappies in a cannon cart. I'm here for it.
Zappies are interesting. They keep on being tweaked by minor little changes. I think most recently was, again, increasing the speed of that first attack. We don't see a ton of them here, but fun to see these on day 2 of CRL.
There's just a few, not even a few, but just a handful of cards out there. You know, the Bomber, the Wizard, the Bowler we're starting to see more of, Zappies, just certain cards that seem like they'd be so fun execution, or would be so fun in competitive play, but just they haven't quite found their home.
Royal Recruits split 3-3 for the 6-man. Musketeer in the middle. Maybe trying to pick something up there, but nothing falls for Bob, so Muskie now going to rock right into a protected cannon
really
card.
Good job protecting the cannon card there. It's going to demand a good amount of elixir here out of Wallace. Now that the Skeleton Dragons are out of cycle, you wonder how Bob the Rock is going to want to go on the offense here.
Well, this is going to be frustrating for for Bob with Graveyard against this. You have the Skeleton Dragon Heal Spirit as one combination. The Royal Recruits also can clog up those graveyards a lot, so not to mention the Bar Barrel to clean some of that off. We'll see. And I believe, I could be wrong here, that Bob's running with Cannon Cart and Musketeer and Bar Barrel and Cage. It does feel like Graveyard, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it becomes this really difficult thing, and Wallace is already recognizing it. You see cycling everything in the back, because for him, it's okay for them to take this long to get up to the river, because then you can decide, do I want to double down with some Royal Hogs, or do I want to go back to playing defense? And so he decides here to go back to playing defense, cycling units in the back, looking for that graveyard.
And Poison Out certainly makes it feel more like that's the direction that we're going in. 3-3 split for the 6-man one more time. And the Sparkies respond in kind. 2 to the left, 1 to the right.
And Bob the Rock totally happy doing what he's doing right now, getting spell value where he can, but you know Wallace isn't going to allow that to happen for the entire game.
And the Bar Barrel does get the Heal Spirit. Huge pickup there for Bob.
Really, really great patience, just waiting, looking for it to come in. Yes, this Bar Barrel would have helped with that initial damage, but he knew that that Heal Spirit could be a nail in the coffin.
So far, been a good job controlling this defensively for Bob. I mean, while Wallace is cycling in the back and building up big at the bridge, but Bob doing a good job of controlling both sides, and the Zappies playing a pretty key role here, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, man. Being able to split those Zappies and provide defensive utility on both sides to help meet that 6-man, no matter how it's split, is going to be a great, great thing here for Bob the Rock, because also, if those Zappies are healthy enough and in your good Elixir's position, you can turn on the offense with the Graveyard.
I'm wondering where Bob finds the opportunity to pull the trigger on a GY, and now the 6-man high. Really aggressive play from the Brazilian.
And a great Bar Barrel again on the left-hand side. Gets that Heal Spirit in the last second. And I'm 100% with you. I'm wondering where Bob the Rock can find the space to do exactly what he's doing right there. And he's not going to get a lot out of this. He's going to get some decent spell damage, but a great high cage to stop the tank from coming across.
But look at the Cannon Cart pulling double duty. Still on the left-hand side. Stops the 2 pigs that escaped from connecting, so not going to eat any pig shots. On the left-hand side is Bob, and now putting more pressure on with the Graveyard Poison.
Bob back on the Graveyard, but he goes low with the Poison. He hits the Skeleton Dragon and a couple of the recruits, but misses the Musketeer, which is honestly his #1 target.
And this time the Heal Spirit does get in for Wallace. Picks over the left-hand tower. Not going to do enough to take the lead back, 1627 to 1767. This is looking like Bob's game. Pigs in high on the Goblin Cage. Fireball trying to make some room here. Not going to do it. Bob the Rock going to open things up 2-0 and
really well played by Bob the Rock, just hanging on 2 games in a row. The patience of his play to finally get the Graveyards in the final moments of Triple Elixir is really a testament to how mature this guy is.
And that's a great word you use there, mature, right? A guy who has not been in CRL before. He's been playing a lot No Tilt League, Orange Crown League, CCS, taking a slow and steady pace to build up his skill set in 2v2 and bringing it here. I really like his overall approach to the game, and I think it's paying off here today.
Yeah, and I really like to see a rookie with this kind of composure getting into these crazy 5-minute games in triple elixir. He's never going for the dumb fireball to try to get an edge up early on. He waits till there's no way that fireball is needed somewhere else. He knows he's got the damage lead, so all he needs to do is make sure no more comes on his tower, then get that spell out in the final seconds. He's done it 2 games in a row. And again, it's just really, really impressive from someone who is so new to the competitive scene here at CRL, that is.
Pain Gaming with the current set lead, but in danger of going to the 1v1, and their last man standing, Lucas Gamer, and we'll see if he can come out and get a couple wins. I mean, a reverse sweep here is going to be very difficult against getting through Bob and then Wings and Air Surfer, but this is important because I believed that Pain was going to win more King of the Hills than they lose over this season. Currently, they have not yet won a game in King of the Hill, 0-5 at this point in the second set.
Yeah, well, I know a big part of Pain's success that you believe is going to be Lucas. I mean, you've told me that this guy is a stunner. He's a very, very good one-on-one player. We need to see that come through today, not only for our sake and for Pain's sake, but for his sake. He needs to come out and at least get a 1 game under his belt because, like you said, Pain has really struggled in head-to-head, and they did pick up a 2v2 set, but again, it's against rookies.
Yeah, if Lucas can win 1 or even 2 games here in this King of the Hill, even if he loses the King of the Hill set, I'll feel pretty good about him in that 1v1. Yeah. If he loses here to Bob and gives up the sweep here, I'm going to be really concerned about Lucas's mindset if he is, in fact, the player they pick for the 3rd and final deciding set.
So here we go. Vitor, Wallace, and Lucas were at 1, 2, and 3, up, down yesterday. Is it going to happen again today?
It's been Sweep City in King of the Hill. Been kind of crazy the runs people have been going on in King of the Hill so far, and it's part of the fun of seeing that as set number 2. Bar barrel to open for the Brazilian. Responded with a baby dragon from Bob.
Yeah, no matter how many King of the Hill sweeps we see, they're always just so impressive. Nice King Tower activation there by Lucas.
Very pretty little King Tower activation for Lucas, who looks like we might be getting a mirror match here, potentially. Could be Graveyard versus Graveyard.
Yep, and Lucas doing the correct thing. Bob the Rock getting angry because he sees Lucas already recognizing the matchup and not playing that baby dragon in the middle.
Yeah, and now he knows that it's probably game over. Bob knows that he's playing Graveyard against a King Tower activation. Lucas easily got that to start things off, and you're playing GY versus GY. It would be shocking, absolutely shocking to see Lucas lose this game.
Yes, I agree. So now we're going to see Bob the Rock go back on offense. Let's see what this Ice Wiz plus 2 towers can do defensively. A NATO maybe... Oh, NATO should be back in cycle if he can get to the elixir, but he will not be able to.
Little extra splash comes in from the baby dragon on the left-hand side, so not out of it yet is Bob, but yeah, you see Lucas with a bit of a well-played here.
Yeah, I think Lucas is kind of surprised by how much damage came in. He would have really loved to be able to get back around to the... Oh my goodness, there it is!
It really felt like maybe that knight wouldn't activate. It almost stayed on the Princess Tower, but just inside enough. Bob nearly chunked it with that NATO.
He willed that to happen. He needed that to happen, and that play right there, even though he's down in damage, brings him right back in the game. Let's see what happens right here with Lucas going hyper-aggressive.
The one thing about that King Tower activation, which obviously is the right call, is it does mean that's 3 elixir that puts him in the hole in a matchup where they now both have King Towers.
Yeah.
So, and you see Bob calling the good game here. He knows. Yep. He knows what's going on at
Lucas
this point.
did exactly what he needed to do. Play right up at the river. Call Bob the Rock's bluff, if you want to call it that, but him going all in on offense, the way that Lucas defended there, Bob the Rock knows it's over.
Final 20 seconds of regulation. We're probably going to go for a while here.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
Nice, he's stacking up a bit.
It's going to be a lot of what we're seeing right here, man. Just bridge battles and spell value when and where they can get it. Lucas obviously doing a great job there, getting this poison in. killing the units by bringing the NATO, bringing those units all together with the NATO, but also that NATO spell tower damage.
Yeah, 595, and you can see the look of frustration on Bob's face.
Yeah, Bob the Rock, though, should not be frustrated. He had a really, really great showing today in King of the Hill.
Yeah, you came out and you got 2 big-time wins. You set up Wings and Air Surfer to need only 1 win to extend you into that 3rd set. Just ran up against, maybe wasn't expecting this mirror matchup, and early King Tower activation, oh well.
Yeah, and, you know, again, nothing fancy here, just really, really nice plays. I think the 2 NATOs were probably the fanciest thing you saw in the game to activate King Tower, but really those are kind of by-the-numbers plays. It was just the wherewithal to execute it that early on, and then to just keep that lead and hold on to it.
And you see Bob just frustrated here. Knows he has to leak a little bit just to make the right play, going to give away free poison value.
Yep. And again, NATO to pull that Ice Wiz in there, get that elixir, that support elixir off the board, more spell damage in. There you go, poison in. Lucas picks up his first W.
It's a big win for Lucas. He needed this one. He needed this one badly, and I think that this win, even if he doesn't go for the full King of the Hill sweep, this win gives him the confidence, okay, I finally got my first win here in CRL. Now I can go get 2 more in the 1v1.
Yeah, and he has to feel good about his instincts, right? His instincts kicked in almost immediately at the top of that game, recognizing he was in a mirror matchup, recognizing exactly what he needed to do in said mirror matchup to take the advantage. Whether it's in, Expo, it's, how you utilize your ice golems. In Mortar, it's about defending your Mortar and keeping that first shot off your Mortar. And then here you saw it was all about getting that early King Tower activation and holding on to his elixir lead.
So Lucas taking the win over Bob the Rock, whose overall record this season now improves off that performance to 4-5. After a bit of struggles here in 2v2, Lucas an even 1-1 so far, and that was it. Early King Tower activation, NATO in, Ice Wiz to the middle, and at that moment, Bob had to know the writing was on the wall.
I mean,
early.
that's only 30 seconds into the game, and only 3 cards have been played on both sides of the board, and that's right when Lucas sealed the deal. That's how crazy that play is. I mean, again, it's by the numbers, but being able to execute that way that early on really made it almost impossible for Bob the Rock without a huge mistake by Lucas to come back.
Well, it's very impactful, and it makes you wonder a little bit. And when I saw him play the Baby Dragon in response to the Barb Barrel, there was a little bit of concern there, right? You're playing a 4 elixir troop in response to 2 elixir. Was there no other response in his hand? Maybe his Barb Barrel was buried and not in cycle. Maybe his Knight wasn't in cycle. I don't know what he had, what his starting hand was at the moment, but you see the Baby Dragon in response, and I bet you that at the moment he saw that, Lucas was salivating on his side, just waiting for that.
Yeah, because you can't necessarily call it a misplay right when something happens, but the problem is your opponent is baiting these things out of you, or they're waiting for you to make that mistake. Whether it's a low-placed cage or building, or whether it's something like exactly what you're talking about right there, it's not really a misplay until you realize that what you're playing against. Just cycle that Baby Dragon on the outside. That's all you have to do, but that was the difference in the game.
Here we go, game number 2. Air Surfer up against Lucas, and Lucas is going fast cycle, but not going to be 2.6 today. Looking like 3.0 Expo,
sure
though.
Sure is.
Now, I got to say, this is a bravado move. To go Expo against one of the greatest to ever play Expo in Air Surfer.
Yeah.
I gotta admire the gumption of Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, Air Surfer picked up, like 116 wins or whatever in the first tournament with Expo, and Lucas decides to start his career off against Air Surfer with throwing it right in his face.
You see a big sigh out of Air Surfer there, gave up a decent chunk of damage to open up.
And he's down in Elixir.
And that's to NATO that one back and be even further down now. Almost 5 Elixir, just easy log cycle here for Lucas.
Yeah, he's going to start cycling stuff in the back. There you are. Skeletons probably maybe followed by the Archers. Nope, he just goes right into the Expo knowing Tesla's in cycle. Air Surfer should have known that Tesla was going to be there.
Yeah, good pickup here. The Knight Bar
Yeah.
Barrel Poison will keep another connection from coming in, but again, this is all about that elixir advantage, and Lucas is continuing to build it.
Yes, he really, really is. But the one, note that we do have to make is since Air Surfer is so good with Expo, he does know all the tricks of the trade and how to play against it. He knows the sequence in which players like to change up their defense, because that's one of the biggest things about Expo. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, because I do know it is something that you spent more time with. But being able to look into the future of how your opponent likes to defend at the river is massive in Expo.
Sure, it's absolutely important. And give me 1 second here. Poison down on the right-hand side. Baby Dragon not going to get to tower here. The little Tesla pop, and you see a cheeky barb barrel coming out on the opposite side. And I think a big thing in this case is the early advantage for Lucas in this one. You can get caught on the back end in this matchup. The early advantage is absolutely huge. Air Surfer has a lot of tools that are solid against Expo, between the Knight to pick up, the Cage to pick up, and the Barb Barrel to go ahead and penetrate in low, or penetrate through the Ice Spirit and the Skeletons. There's some good tools here for Air Surfer, so every little chunk of early damage is very, very important for Lucas.
Yeah, and this really is going to be a fascinating game, because you're going to see these types of decisions being made all the way across the board. Lucas is going to change up where he wants to play his defensive Expo. Air Surfer is going to do things like that, where he poisons a Tesla underground and an Expo to keep it off the board. And honestly, for me, the most exciting thing is, again, those bridge battles and how much they change going on offense and defense.
Connection for the Ice Wizard on the right-hand side, just trying to protect this Tesla right now, is Lucas, and goes Expo the opposite lane. We haven't seen a lot of fancy spell work out of Lucas yet. Maybe we will see it in Triple Elixir, but starting to move some momentum towards Air Surfer. That Baby Dragon will get a belch on the right-hand side, 1870 to 1950.
And this is huge, because Lucas is going to have to keep changing lanes of where he's placing that Expo, because he's giving too much spell value to Air Surfer. And Air Surfer, on the other side of it, hasn't even pulled the trigger on his win condition, because he knows if he overspends on Graveyard, he's going to lose the game, whereas getting this spell value is the key to victory.
Yeah, very slow and steady game here for these two so far. Barb Barrel to take care of the Tesla and stop that setup, and now Lucas goes back to the right hand.
I mean, we all know what Expo players want us to do, and it's make that mistake defensively where you overspend, and Air Surfer is just playing this exactly how he has to.
That was a really nice night out of Lucas to go through, get in front of the Archer, and tank on that Baby Dragon for a moment. Didn't preserve enough on that side, but still a nice one. But you can see here late in the game, a little advantage. This Expo kind of has to connect here for Lucas. He does have some spell cycle advantage, but here we go. Final 15 seconds. Expo set up with Tesla building a city on the left-hand side as the
fireball in. There's the logs. Poison going to come in as well with the NATO, and Air Surfer going to just barely edge out Lucas here. And I got it. No, he got back around. He got back around. Look at Air Surfer. Oh!
He can't believe it!
My good lord! What just happened? Oh my god, Air Surfer has to be beside himself.
Lucas comes out, goes 3.0 Expo against the Expo Master, and you can see the Air Surfer not happy with what happened there. That fireball couldn't have hit there any later if it came from the past.
I mean, I was so impressed by Air Surfer. He never played his Graveyard. He did exactly what he needed to do, defend the only way he could, get spell value on the board regularly and consistently, and make Lucas have to change up how he goes on offense every single time he drops that Expo. But Air Surfer just forgetting how quick the cycle is with a deck that he knows like the back of his hand.
Yeah, that was tough, and you saw him putting more spell value on the left-hand side, but the right-hand side was the lower tower, and that's a really critical moment there at the end, that the right-hand side, the Tornado, 48 HP, I think he lost by 44. So anything on that right-hand side would have stolen the win. Let's look at these final moments here,
Andrew. The defense played by Air Surfer, it's so dynamic. It keeps changing consistently. Nothing breaks through. The Expo connecting on the very, very first drop is the only reason he lost this game, because otherwise he defended excellently, but Lucas keeping track of his cycle, elixir, and of course the time on the board. He outplays Air Surfer with his own deck, and you talk about gumption, being able to execute it and pull it off that way, just huge for Lucas.
And yeah, and you see it was the Brawler going to the right-hand lane and getting one shot, but not a second shot to get the win there for Air Surfer. And he's focused with the Poison and NATO on the left-hand side because that was the lower tower at the moment. So Lucas squeaking by here against Air Surfer 2-0, and now with a shot to give Payne the 2-set sweep if he can beat Wings in this 5th and final game.
Yeah, and you know, Air Surfer, I don't think he could have played it any better than he did. Like, obviously, you want to say maybe if he got the graveyard down once, he could have stolen it, but I don't think he could have. I think he did exactly what he had to do, and he just came up short.
Here we go, game number 5 of King of the Hill, and a quick update here for you. Payne does have some penalties for starting games early before being told by our league operations, so they do have a -1 set differential penalty and a -1 game differential penalty, which could be huge when it comes to tiebreakers and rankings later in the season.
Yeah, that's got to be really, really frustrating from Payne, and it makes sense, again, because they are rookies, so they are making these mistakes. They're maybe a little too excited, but, you know, when they do that, when they accept games too early, it shows off everything, whether it's show flow, rhythm of the team, what the, you know, how much time their opponents get. It's really about keeping the integrity with things like that, so unfortunately for Payne Gaming, already taking a bit of a penalty early on in the season.
Interesting, I guess I missed the graphic. It's not Wings, it's Schwarzen out for the final game here. So Lucas versus Schwarzen in game number 5 of King of the Hill.
Wow. Wings taking a seat for the day, even in a set that he loves to be in, or at least we love to watch him play. Maybe that means they're saving him for 1v1, but definitely surprised.
Yeah, a little bit of a shocker here. You know, that's certainly not what we thought we would see between these two. But Schwarzen, certainly talented, did win the overall Western group in Stage 3 of the No Tilt World Championship, going 6-1 overall in that season. And I believe that one of those wins there was a win over Vitor in that case, so a win over the teammate of Lucas. Certainly a talented head-to-head player in his own right, no questions there.
So Mega Knight Miner going up against Miner Cycle. This Wallbreaker is going to have a difficult time getting through the Skeletons, the Bar Barrel, the E-Wiz, the Mega Knight. A lot of responses there.
Yeah, Lucas does like fast cycle decks. You're seeing that here. The question is, can he get around fast enough to beat out the myriad of defensive responses from the Journey?
Nice kite there with the Knight. Nothing there to pick up. Oh, that is not a good fireball. Yep, and he calls an oops already, looking for any of the other units to come down other than the Mega Knight with that fireball, and this is going to be trouble for Lucas.
Going for a King Tower activation here, and look at
the
Knight wanders forward.
A beautiful, beautiful setup there. I was about to learn something, and then the Knight steps up and ruins everything for Lucas. Schwarzen on top by a mile.
Man, 2-0 to start things off in King of the Hill. A good chance for a King of the Hill sweep, but instead, just a bit of an error, and that's going to be a big win for Schwarzen. The fireball, the Knight creeping up just a little bit too fast, and who hasn't tried to go for a King Tower activation or some sort of kite and had a troop you play for some other purpose get in the way and ruin that moment?
I mean, it was so cool to watch how that was about to unfold. You saw the high skellies, you saw the very early bomb tower, you knew exactly what Lucas was going to go for, and he had the interaction locked. You saw what the Mega Knight was looking at. He was focused on the bomb tower. That Knight takes one step up, and goodness, Schwarzen, you can see very, very happy about that interaction going his way.
That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Now, I don't know who Payne is planning on putting back out there, Lucas or Vitor, and maybe they ride the so-called hot hand from Lucas, but two big mistakes like that, you gotta wonder if maybe they sit him for the 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I honestly would like to see Lucas out there.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree. He is the head-to-head star and was playing great up until this game. Big win there for Schwarzen to avoid the 2-0 sweep for Pain Gaming. And now here's the question. We thought that maybe Wing's taking a seat for the day. Is that the case, or will he come out here for the third and final set?
I just feel like it's impossible to play Wings over Air Surfer in that set when it's just been so clear the history of both of those guys. Air Surfer and Wings, they're better in the sets that we always talk about. So here's the kite. You see that, the high skeletons. He's leaping towards the bomb tower, and that knight just takes one step up a second early. And you know what? I'm glad that Lucas was so vocal about the mistakes he made. You saw the oops come out on the fireball. You saw the angry emotes come out on that kite. I like that he was so honest about the things that he expected to happen in the game, because I think we all did. I mean, that fireball came in, you're like, all right, this is going to be really great if it hits 4 of the 5 units that could come down, right? This kite is going to be incredible if nothing disrupts its path. And just a little bit of change there for Lucas, and we might be talking about a 2-set sweep.
Yeah, I mean, the Knight just crept up a half. You saw the Knight, the Mega Knight was looking at that bomb tower. It was like bomb tower, no, Knight, and last second switch. So really brutal there in a moment for Vitor. But I mean, for Lucas, and we've talked about it before, mistakes beget mistakes. Yeah. You make one mistake, and now it's in your head. Now you don't have the thing that you want. And we went from the fireball on one end to the Knight messing up the kite on the other end. And that's just 2 back-to-back ones. So we'll see if he can recover or if he's the one who comes out here in the third and final set.
And that was such a cool, like, I mean, maybe I don't play with those cards enough, but the kite that he was going for the King Tower activation, I thought it would have been so fun to watch. I mean, I know you do Inside the Play. Maybe you could highlight that for us and show us what would have happened had that Knight not stepped up. But that being said, who's going to come out in the 1v1? Let us know on Twitter at Esports Royale EN. Tag Rich and I if you want to. I mean, hey, we like to look at Twitter. But who's it going to be? I really feel like Lucas has to come back out for Pain. He played so well. And then, oh, well, there we go. It will be Lucas and Air Surfer looking for a bit of redemption, maybe.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. The question now is, I don't think this is Air Surfer's style, but do you go and pull Expo as Air Surfer and go, hey, young man, let me show you how it's done?
I would love that. I'll be honest, I would love to see that.
So it's Hog Cycle for Air Surfer, probably Triple Spell, although it could be the Heal Spirit version instead. And Lucas looking like Balloon here.
Not gonna deal with that. Musketeer gonna cross the river. Skeleton Dragons in response, and right now just kind of playing the responsive game are both of these gentlemen.
Lumberjack cycled in the back. Big question here, is Lucas playing the Royal Recruits, the 6-man version, the 6 Lunar? Is he playing the Barb Barrel version? We'll find out here fairly soon, I suspect, and he is playing the Barb Barrel version, so a little faster cycle here out of Lucas.
Hog Rider gets one hit in and activates that King Tower, so if we do see Earthquake in the hand of Air Surfer, those will start to hit King and Princess.
So we'll see if we see something similar to what we saw yesterday, where Air Surfer tries to get any predictions on High Fisherman to pull those Hog Riders. Heal Spirit not going to do much of anything, but does give enough room. But that's going to be...
That's a tough one.
I believe... Oh, but he's not running Snowball, I don't think. Oh, he is running Snowball. No, he's not.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you consider that a miss on the fireball because he ended up only taking the tower damage. He obviously would have liked to hit, or excuse me, the bomb damage, death damage. He would have liked to hit the Lumberjack, Musketeer, and Balloon, but he might not have been able to.
Musketeer cycle to the right-hand side. Final minute of regulation play. Triple Elixir starting to flow. And again, protecting that Musketeer so key for Air Surfer in this matchup.
Yep. Really, really is his highest DPS unit. He's going to want to double down and throw a hog down in front whenever he can. And Lucas knows it, which is why he's trying so hard to stop that Musketeer from getting any utility across the bridge.
And this Lumberjack won't go down, Andrew. This is actually pretty huge. Going to give Lucas a chance to go in both lanes. And that Air Surfer has to ignore the Skeleton Dragon on the right-hand
Yeah,
side.
so this snowball is going to cause problems. There's the fireball coming in. Balloon should not get a drop, but will get death damage. Now, with the Fisherman there. All right.
So not running a snowball variation. The question is he running triple spell with fireball instead of snowball, or is he running some other small? We would have seen a cycle troop, I feel like. So the fact we haven't seen that last card makes me feel like it's still EQ.
Yeah, I really do feel like it is still EQ because he just hasn't found a good opportunity to use it.
And death damage plus the Skeleton Dragon on the right-hand side. Air Surfer having trouble finding the rhythm here defensively. You see going for that same Fisherman distraction with the Skeletons high, but not getting it. Lucas smarter playing that Fisherman just a little bit lower than we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder if Air Surfer needs to maybe bluff that he's going to send that Hog Rider in, bait out the Fisherman, and then send the Hog in either in the same or opposite lane. But as of right now, Lucas has his cycle dialed down and is able. I had to stop myself there for a second. He's got his cycle dialed down and is able to defend almost premeditatively.
I did not love the Skeleton Dragon play for the push on the balloon in that one. I don't think you're going to see Air Surfer ever play the bomb tower in that long pull spot. I just don't see it happening. You see him playing it kind of pocketed in the way you're supposed to play this matchup against Balloon. I think the Skeleton Dragons might have been a bit of an overcommitment going for the push in a situation where it probably wasn't going to work.
This is what we're talking about. That Fisherman being played almost in the future, knowing exactly where Air Surfer is going to attack and when he's going to do it, because there's no other option.
Musketeer trying to help with the Skeleton Dragons, and this is a good sequence out of Air Surfer defensively. Has to stop this Fisherman. Will do it, but 190 on the left-hand lane.
Does take the damage. Really, really tough there. 30 seconds remain. Air Surfer needs to do anything to get this Hog Rider to the tower. You see the high bomb tower to catch the Fisherman, but not going to be enough.
Balloon in one more time. Knight to distract on the Skeleton Dragon and the Fisherman. Fireball trying to push things back a little bit. And Lumberjack goes to town on the right-hand side as well. Air Surfer trying to do anything he can. Lucas knows there's only one place to go. GG, well played. Lucas wins game number 1 and has match point for Pain
So far right now, Lucas is just a thorn in Air Surfer's side. This rookie will not go away no matter how well Air Surfer plays, no matter how tough his matchup may be. He still is not able to take Lucas down. Yes, Lucas has had great matchups in both situations, at least in my opinion, but Air Surfer has he needs to figure out a way to come out on top of this.
Yeah, this was pretty brutal overall for Air Surfer, and put together some brilliant defenses. And that one moment where Air Surfer went high with the Skeletons to try to distract the Fisherman, that could have been the difference, but Lucas certainly was aware of what happened yesterday and made sure that didn't happen today. GG, well played. Pain Gaming now with match point.
This has been a huge day for Lucas, and this is exactly what you were talking about for the days leading up to CRL, and obviously even yesterday you were saying it. There's so much faith in this young man, and today he's really showcased exactly why, whether he's doing it in King of the Hill or whether he's doing it in 1v1 against Air Surfer.
And here you see some of the action from that last one, and there were just we're a little bit late in the game here, but it got okay. There was an opening for Air Surfer sort of about a minute ago for him to get back in the game, but just couldn't make it happen. The pressure relentless. And there was one Lumberjack that survived in the right-hand lane that allowed Air Surfer to go, or Lucas to go with a second Lumberjack into the left-hand lane. And at that point, it felt like Air Surfer was just too far behind in the game to make a true comeback.
Yeah, and then having the fireball instead of the snowball makes your cycle just take a little bit longer, so you're not able to keep up the pressure with the Hog and really disrupt your opponent's cycle. It felt like, like I was saying, Lucas was so in sync with Air Surfer's cycle that the Fisherman was almost waiting for the Hog. I'd say on 85% of those Hog sends, the Fisherman was waiting for him. And on the other ones, the Lumberjack was already cycled towards where the Hog was going to be. So yes, the Hog Rider did come in and get a few hits here and there, but I don't think Lucas was ever even nervous for a moment in that game.
I am curious about, typically the triple spell is log, snowball, earthquake. So I am curious about why the fireball got mixed in there, what Misfits, what Adam and Dippets were looking at in terms of a matchup to throw that fireball.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were worried about barbs. Maybe they were worried about being able to... Yeah, I mean, it feels like barbs might have been it because they had the defensive stuff in there to deal with things like Royal Hogs and Royal Giant.
Bandit goes for a little juke move and does get on tower, 22-14 to open things up, and Lucas cycling that Magic Archer in the back. Heal Spirit does not keep the Magic Archer on the board. So as 45 seconds go, Air Surfer starting to set up on his side, but a healthy Inferno Dragon gonna cross the bridge.
So Inferno Dragon gonna get turned around? No, not with that Bar Barrel. Gonna take down this Brawler. And a great Bandit cycled in the back.
Yeah, that is not what you see. Air Surfer Psy a little bit there. He really wanted that Inferno Dragon to turn towards the Bar Barrel and create a little bit more pressure from the Brawler. Doesn't happen. Slight lead here for Lucas as we get closer to the midway point of our opening 3 minutes.
And I wonder if some of the stuff we're seeing on Air Surfer's camera now is kind of a discomfort or maybe even annoyance showing its face in the physical form. You can see these kind of twitches and jitters coming from him because I think he's probably just really frustrated with these really, really small interactions that put him 800 damage behind already.
Yeah, a really, really tough spot to open up. This Bar Barrel will do a better job than the last one. Bandit,
oh my goodness.
No, gonna dash to tower. Oh, word, has to bring the Lumberjack out to save that. And you see another big breath out of Air Surfer.
A gigantic sigh of the opposite of relief. Luckily for him, that Lumberjack does get a hit, and I think that, honestly, is exactly what Air Surfer needed to feel like he was still in the game.
Ram Rider in, cage high to stop that from getting through. The Ram Rider tries to escape, doesn't happen. This Bandit, though, will get picked up by a Lumberjack, but again, forcing expenditure is Lucas.
Yeah, really, really nice by Lucas. They're keeping that Bandit on the board. I believe a Bar Barrel and Bandit both came down, to keep the Magic Archer on the board. Really nice play by Lucas.
Lumberjack Heal Spirit into the right-hand side, and the Heal Spirit does get off on the Lumberjack, so now significant damage in both lanes for the Brazilian. Magic Archer value lined on up and still going is that 1 HP Magic Archer on the right-hand side.
And I know that Laughing Goblin was not a good laugh coming out of Air Surfer. That's the frustrated, what is happening right now? Can everything go wrong in one game? Apparently it can. Laugh.
Magic Archer going there for the cage, not necessary. Cage pops just a little bit earlier than maybe expected. And at what point does Air Surfer get what I assume is a Royal Giant down? Knows he's going into an Inferno Dragon, a Lumberjack, and a Ram Rider.
Small misplay there by Lucas, I guess, just allowing those couple hits to come in from the Mega Minion. But that leaves his Inferno Dragon completely healthy, which is maybe what he was going for. And
Lumberjack, what a weird interaction pushing that Magic Archer all over the place.
Yeah, I think honestly Lucas might have been looking for something to come right on top of the Lumberjack, or excuse me, on top of the Magic Archer and kite it away with the Lumberjack, but not the case for Air Surfer, and ends up working in his favor.
14.99 to 17.52, minute 15 left. Lucas slightly ahead of Air Surfer, has not been able to get the second gear, and here we go. Royal Giant high now with the Baby Dragon to protect against the Inferno, but there's still a Lumberjack in there. Good lightning.
He misses the third hit on the lightning, though. Would have loved for that to land in on that Ram Rider.
And the Magic Archer going to try to get some geometry here. Doesn't need it. Ram Rider connects. Air Surfer in a world of hurt.
This is just brutal. Air Surfer right now. This is match point for Pain Gaming, and Air Surfer cannot keep his defense together. It's just not working out for him.
And that Inferno Dragon going to burn that baby all the way off and still be super healthy. Ram Rider doesn't connect, but Magic Archer with some from way downtown.
Oh, and you know that Fireball is going to end the game here. Ram Rider not going to connect, but literally just hanging on to dear life is Air Surfer, and there's that piercing shot trying to come in.
Royal Giant trying to steal this one before the Fireball can come in. Not going to happen. GG, well played. Lucas going Steph Curry with the Magic Archer from distance, getting the win, clutching up a huge 4-1 performance on the day.
I mean, what a 180 turnaround from what we saw yesterday in this young man. And honestly, like you said, he talked about his nerves, and I was just highlighting how much I enjoyed that in that last game he was showing, look, I made a mistake here. There's the oops. Here's the good game. There's the well played. All these things. I like how transparent Lucas has been, and yesterday saying that he was nervous and now seeing that he got a grasp of his nerves and what he can do when he has control over them, that is terrifying to everyone else in the league. He put Air Server on watch today.
Yeah, and you know, I see him actually talking in the chat. He's talking about how he still has been nervous today, but still able to perform at a high level despite those nerves, which I think is a really, really good sign. Able to do what he did today, even though he's still battling with a small bit of stage fright being on such a huge stage.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have to get used to it, right? You know, at some point, right? Michael Jordan said, I didn't have time to be nervous. Maybe that's what Lucas is thinking right now. Yesterday, he had time to be nervous, and he let it really affect him. But, oh, and there's that missed lightning we're talking about. If that would have hit the Ram Rider, that would have been huge. But today, what he did, maybe the nerves are still affecting him, but he harnessed those nerves and turned it into some incredible heads-up gameplay. And the Magic Archer, if you just watch what he did in the last game, will show you how on it he was.
There you go, the Magic Archer from way downtown, putting that thing all the way through. Of course, the Ram Rider that snuck through before that off the lightning that didn't hit it ends up sealing the game here for Lucas, who again had a great performance today. Big time wins, 4 wins overall, and this is a huge clutch for Lucas. It has to be a big confidence boost for the Brazilian and for the entire Pain Gaming squad.
Yeah, I mean, they needed it. They really, really needed a win today. Obviously, you know, being squads with a handful of, or full of rookies and a half rookies, we were talking about the importance of this match and who was going to walk away with needing the W. And I think we both said that Pain really needed to win. But that being said, now that they've got their W and they're feeling good, this is not a good position for Misfits to be in.
No. O2 with a 2v2 duo who really hasn't got their feet under them yet. You know, feeling the absence of Razor, I feel like, right now is Misfits, and Bob and Shorezen, both talented players. Shorezen, of course, was able to clutch out and stop that King of the Hill from becoming a total disaster for Misfits. But they have to figure out something quick, and I guess the big question today is, where was Wings?
Yeah. That's a really good point. Where was Wings today? Maybe he wasn't feeling it after yesterday's King of the Hill appearance, but honestly, I'd be surprised. That's what King of the Hill, that's the name of the game in King of the Hill. You go out there and you might get stomped in, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes flat because you just didn't have a good matchup or you made one misplay early on. It feels like that's something that Wings has probably gotten used to in King of the Hill from how many times it's happened to him, but more so how many times he's done it to other people. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why he wasn't there today.
Yeah, it's a pretty big question overall. And another big question here for Pain Gaming is, what's their number going to be in terms of what gets them in and out of the playoffs? Because again, to remind you guys, you saw us skip the graphic, go right into game. They have not just a game differential, but because of the number of warnings they've had throughout the season already, in day 2, because of mistakes like that one, they already have a -1 set differential penalty.
That's big time.
Which is absolutely huge. It's massive, Andrew.
I mean, dude, we see it every season, right? The middle of the pack at the end of whether it's 4 weeks or 10 weeks, there's always teams that are tied, and the differential battle that begins and ensues from that moment on, it's exciting and terrifying at the same time. Usually people run around looking like chickens with their heads cut off. That's huge. And again, I love the transparency from Lucas here saying that he was sorry. He was nervous. He made a mistake. That's what rookies are going to do in these situations. But you know what made up for it? That incredible performance. And you know what else? Now I can finally say, you were the guy on my fantasy roster that didn't get me any crowns yesterday, bro. But guess what? Total redemption today, Lucas. Salute to you, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, I had him as well. Of course, I actually had both Air Surfer and Lucas, so I was kind of hoping they would go back and forth a little bit more, but didn't end up happening today. Man, what a crazy one. And now I'm thinking about the math here. Yesterday, Pain Gaming going down 0-2. Today, winning 2-1, that would be a -1 set differential, but now they're -2 at a 1-1. So I am really, really curious to see where that puts Pain, because they are, in my opinion, Pain is a bubble team. They'll be fighting for a number 5 or number 6
The one
spot.
thing that we can say is nice is that we have such a longer season, right? So that big of a differential, or that differential, won't weigh as heavily. So we're done with our first weekend, man. Let's go take a look at the standings. Maybe not quite what you guys thought. Tribe being in first place, not really a surprise, I'd think, but CRB having a great showing against Team Liquid yesterday in second place, and those numbers right next to it are going to be the set differentials. And as you can see down there at the bottom, Pain Gaming in sixth place at -2. So here we go. Let me clear this up for you. Tribe Gaming in first, CRB in second, Space Station Gaming in third place. Great performances from those three squads. Team Queso also with a 2-set sweep in fourth, and SK Gaming rounding out our top 5 with that 1-0 win today.
Down there on the bottom, Pain Gaming 1-1, and we mentioned that -2 would have been a -1 without the penalty. Dignitas, Liquid, Chivas Esports, and Misfits all rounding out the bottom for the moment, and Misfits 0-2, -3 set differential. 2 losses against teams they really might have hoped were opportunities to grab wins. So a rough start here for Misfits early on.
Yeah,
Andrew.
so Misfits going to take a little bit of a break next week, not having to do double duty once again. Every team will have to do that, at least once in this season. So Space Station Gaming, Tribe Gaming going to start things off. That's going to be a battle for the top. Really, really exciting there. CRB going to try to hold on to that second place position and maybe even move up into first over Dignitas. Dignitas going to have something to say about that. SK Gaming and Team Queso going to find out who's going to go 1-1 and who's going to go 2-0. Rich, what do we have going on Sunday?
Sunday, Chivas Esports takes on Team Liquid in a battle to avoid falling down to 0-2. Second up, Tribe Gaming will be doing their doubleheader, their Saturday-Sunday matchup against Misfits, looking for their first win. And Pain Gaming will face off against SK, doing their second match of the weekend. A big test for the young team.
Yeah, so guys, make sure you are following along with us at Esports Royale EN on Twitter, because the polls go up before the matches every single weekend. And I actually love to look at the polls. I love to see how many votes came in. And I did see one person in the chat asking about Fantasy Royale. We talk about it at the top of the show. I'll just clarify really quickly. They were saying, how do you play it? Really easy. Open up your app, go to the globe, go to the esports tab, set your lineups starting from Tuesday all the way up until Saturday morning before we go live. You can change those players every single week. Again, starting Tuesday through Saturday for the 4 guys you think are going to get the most crowns at the end of every single week. And whoever has the most of those crowns at the end of the season will be our winner of the 250,000 gems 250,000 gold and 100 gems. So I hope that cleared it up for you guys asking in the chat.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about big-time performers, we've had 2 real standouts so far, so I'm going to pose the question to you, Andrew. At the end of this weekend, who's the scariest team? Is it 5-0 Tribe Gaming, or is it Team God RF Space Station realizing that RF and Lapo can murder in the 2v2 with AC not back for another week?
I mean, when you put it that way, it feels so hard to decide. It feels like you toss a coin and it lands on its side, standing straight up. I think I honestly do still lean towards Tribe. They were so on point today with what exactly you'd expect, and we didn't even see Jupiter King today, right? So Tribe starting off their regular season the same way they did last in the spring, but obviously playoffs coming up and World Finals coming up, a lot more on the line.
Yeah, a lot on the line. Of course, we are just finishing match week 1 of 8 weeks of matches. The top 6 will go on to our playoffs. The top 4 from that go to Shanghai, China for our World Finals in December. Can't wait for it. We'll see you back here again next weekend for CRL West.